Welcome to the meeting. I'll go ahead and call it to order. It's 6:30. Before we get started, I wanted to say a few words in honor of the day. It's September 11th, a day synonymous with tragedy and sadness in America. None of our current students had been born yet, but all of us who remember mourn our loss. The beautiful story that emerged from that act of aggression was that of volunteers from across the country packing up and heading to New York City to help at the search, to serve free food to first responders, and to help clean up the streets. Hundreds of thousands of people donated money to the Red Cross and other organizations, giving generously to people they would never meet. The America, the Missouri, the Columbia we live in today is full of that same spirit of generosity and support. Columbia Public Schools is continuously amazed at the many organizations that share their funds, services, and time to improve circumstances and achievement for our students. We also owe thanks to the many individuals who volunteer in our buildings, bringing food for teachers, planning parties for kids, and helping our staff. We couldn't do our work without your support, and we are so grateful for you. So on this September 11th, let us recommit to sharing the best that is in us through service. What better way to promote America's future than to ensure a quality public education for all of her children? That is the work we believe in at CPS, and we thank you for making it possible. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Jean.
I move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second? John?
I second.
Karen. We're dealing with new microphones tonight, so thank you for your patience. All right, all in favor, just raise your hand. Okay, and say aye. Yeah, sure. All right, the agenda has been adopted. The reading of our equity statement will be Ms. Karen Hayes tonight. Oh, it's online. Oh, sure it is. Sure it is. Yeah, it's right there. You're right.
Columbia Public Schools, through action and in partnership with families and community, will uphold the values, policies, and practices that promote cultural competence. We will accept, embrace, and empower students and staff in their individual identities to establish and sustain human dignity, justice, and equitable treatment, and inclusiveness in the classroom and workplace.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. We'll move on to special recognition. Dr. Porter is going to introduce our first recipient.
Good evening. Good evening. Okay. We are lucky today. Hey, come here. You remember him, right? Here we go. We are lucky to have Hickman Senior Sathvik Kannan with us. You might remember him as one of our guest speakers at Convocation. He is a product of Columbia Public Schools and a very impressive testimony to what students can do when supported by teachers, parents, stakeholders, and the opportunities that we are lucky to have abundant in our community. As a 17-year-old, he has already been published 7 times for his scientific research and beat out 1,600 finalists to win $50,000 and the Regeneron Young Scientist Award, for which we are recognizing him tonight. Regeneron and Society for Science presents $50,000 to 2 first-place projects. These finalists are selected for their commitment to innovation and tackling challenging scientific questions, using authentic research practices, and creating solutions to the problems of tomorrow. Sathvik received $50,000 for using biocomputational methods to understand the causes of heightened Invectivity, and the disease Mpox after it reemerged in 2022. Southwick's approach, named Bioplex, uses a combination of machine learning and three-dimensional comparative protein modeling to decode structures like those that enable the Mpox virus to replicate. Please join me in congratulating and showing how proud we are of Southwick and his amazing award. Good job.
We now get to recognize one of our own. Mr. Blake Willoughby received both advanced and master's certification from the Missouri School Boards Association during the MSBA Summer Summit on June 17th this summer. This program recognizes local school board members for pursuing additional learning opportunities beyond the legally required school board training. Blake was one of 3 people in Missouri who achieved both advanced and master certification this year, which required a lot of outside work on his part. Congratulations, Blake. You have to go now. You have to do it. Have to. I think Ms. Holtz is going to introduce our next award recipient.
Good evening, Board of Education and President Waters. This is very extra special recognition for the Human Resources Department and personally for me. When I joined the HR department after working as a building principal for several years, Pat gave me tough love as I learned, and she patiently helped me learn everything that I know. I am forever grateful to her. Pat was honored at the Missouri Association of School Personnel Administrators MOASPA conference at the Lake on August 30th as a testament to how much Pat is appreciated and respected. The whole HR department attended the event to support Pat. At the conference, as she was awarded the Human Resources Office Assistant of the Year in all of Missouri, they shared this on our behalf. Pat Waymeyer has been a valuable employee of Columbia Public Schools since July 2006. She has been a constant driving force in the Human Resources Department in Columbia Public Schools. She has dedicated her life to the district for over 14 years. For 3 long, grueling years, Pat left the district, but she came back, and we are so fortunate that she didn't like it anywhere else. Pat comes with years of experience and knowledge in the HR certified realm. Her colleague said she is very resourceful and capable of giving you information at the spur of the moment while handling many other tasks at the same time. I believe Pat has a positive impact in our office because of her knowledge, and she's always willing to help. Another colleague said, Pat has a wealth of knowledge about all things CPS and beyond. The amount of people Pat is able to help daily is incredible. She has dedicated so much time and effort making sure everything is done accurately and timely to the best of her ability. She never turns anyone away if they need help, and she is always so helpful. We learn so much from Pat daily. She's even a great teacher when it comes to training on different systems and helping to problem solve. Pat's initial plans were to retire at the end of the 22-23 school year. However, her dedication to the department has pushed off her retirement date to December 2023, and we hope she will decide to push it out even further. She is so dedicated, she isn't able to leave the job until she knows that we are in a good place. She has taken on a new role as HR supervisor with the goal of training our HR assistants to fill her huge shoes once she retires. The Human Resources Department will not be the same once she retires. Pat is a wealth of knowledge and works hard daily. The amount of knowledge and work production for one person is incredible. She is the kind of team member that people would dream to have. We feel lucky to work with Pat every day. She has taught us so much, and I think our district will not be the same without her. Congratulations, Pat Waymeyer.
We have one more award, and I think Dr. Yearwood is presenting this one.
Okay, thank you. This award goes to or speaks of the Mrs. MacArthur, Heather MacArthur, and her finance department. The Government Finance Officers Association announced they have awarded Columbia Public School District with the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. The award is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting. This award comes after also receiving the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022 from ASBO earlier this summer. Comments from the GFOA are as follows. This award represents a significant achievement and reflects your commitment to transparency and high-quality financial reporting. Attainment of this award represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. We applaud, we celebrate you, the Business Service Department and Chief Financial Officer that were responsible for preparation of the ACFR. Congratulations, Mrs. MacArthur.
Well done, one and all. It's always so nice to recognize the outstanding achievements of our scholars and our staff and our teachers. This is one of my favorite parts of the meeting. My other favorite part of the meeting is the Scholar Voice, which we're going to get to now. So in our Scholar Voice presentation this evening, oh, I sure skipped public comment. My mouse was on top of that. Okay, so first we're going to do public comment, which is also my favorite. Public comments will be received from individuals who registered in advance. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes, which will count down on the timer on the wall. Comments related to disciplinary actions or other matters which could be the subject of a grievance process or comments that are derogatory of any person, business, or organization will be ruled out of order. I have not had to use my gavel yet, and I do not want to. Please refrain from any use of obscene language or disruptive and/or threatening behavior. Patrons who did not register in advance may always make a written public comment by completing a form available on the back table. Please place the completed form in the blue box. Please come forward after I have read your name and the agenda item you will be discussing. We have 2 commenters this evening. The first is Robin Schulp, speaking to action item 8D, 12E, and G.
I think I'd rather listen to them too, so I'll keep this short. So I've asked the board and administration multiple times in the past to please include information about special services in presentations and on the website. I was thankful to see that part of the workforce development presentation includes the work blocks with some high which some high schoolers with disabilities get to partake in. And so I thank you for that. Interestingly, I was just bragging on these work blocks Thursday. I was invited to share with an SLP graduate class all about my family's advocacy journey. And at the end of the presentation, I shared that my son was thriving at Rockbridge High School in the RISE program, telling them all about the work blocks where Nathan gets to work at Goodwill, Shakespeare's Pizza, and today he came home saying he ate pizza today. Yeah, and a nursing home. And in middle school, he worked at the zoo and the coffee shop. These real-world learning opportunities are invaluable. One of the SLP students asked what the RISE program was. She and others wanted to know more about RISE and the work blocks. I think it's great that future SLPs graduating here in Columbia in May were curious about our school district's programs. Maybe we could even entice some of them to stick around and work at our schools. And side note, I had the same conversation with students at MU who are in the special education program. They had the same questions about our special education programs. It's so important that the district continues to share what's happening within special services. I would love to be able to tell the next MU class of future SLPs or special education teachers to look at the district website to learn more about the RISE program or other special education programs. Let's attract future teachers and therapists by highlighting these programs. And even more importantly, let's make sure parents know what's available for their students. We have work to do on this. So again, thank you for including special services in this presentation. My friends and I were having a text conversation earlier today about the work blocks because we saw them on the agenda, and we were wondering which students get to participate in them. I'm looking forward to learning more about this tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Schelp. Our next commenter is William Lautenschlager. I hope I said that name correctly. Giving general public comment. I don't believe I see anyone getting up to speak, so maybe next month. Okay, now we'll move on to Scholar Voice. In our Scholar Voice presentation this evening, we will be hearing from a couple of our scholars who, prior to the graduation in May, were part of our CBY, or Columbia Builds Youth program, and they will share one of the highlights of their participation in this program. I'll turn it over to Mrs. London.
Is it on? Okay. Thank you, President Waters and members of the board. So scholars from our Columbia Builds Youth, a CPS Job Point collaboration, will present highlights from their Team Harmony Tulsa trip, where they participated in Action Institute courses with a group of youths from other states, culminating in a celebratory rally of unity, respect, and dignity and diversity, with multiple opportunities for speaker and scholar interactions and action planning for the creation of a more united community, a more united Columbia. So at this time, I will introduce our district transition coordinator, Dr. Katie Siegel, and she'll share a little bit about our CBY partnership, and then she will introduce our students. Dr. Siegel.
Thank you, Mrs. London. I'm so excited to be able to present this evening about our trip to Tulsa. CBY, Collaborative Partnership, Columbia Builds Youth, is with Job Point. We have students there who are working towards work-based learning and obtaining a HiSET, which in turn is a diploma with Columbia Public Schools. So we had an invitation for Team Harmony to go to Tulsa. 8 students went with Job Point, and our teacher, Miss Mallory Henry, if you could stand. So Miss Mallory Henry is our representative from Columbia Public Schools for the Columbia Builds Youth program. She attended the trip with the kids. So we'll go ahead and start our presentation, and then I will introduce the students to share their experience. So Team Harmony is who put this on. It was an organization founded in 1994. And the effort is just to commit to sharing education about advocating. So I'll play this invitation for you.
Here's a shout out to high school teachers nationwide observing this month and taking action to promote racial harmony.
And we'd like you to join us May 8th through the 11th for the Team Harmony Action Institute here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the site of the 1921 Race Massacre.
We're looking to educate and train teams of high school students to become advocates for racial harmony and social justice.
Housing and meals are covered. All you need to do is get here. For more information, go to teamharmonyinstitute.org.
So once we were invited, we collaborated with Job Point to make sure that our students could get there. Once they were there, they attended Action Institute courses. They had keynote speakers. They went to a We Have a Dream rally, and they toured the Greenwood Rising Museum. The We Have a Dream rally was a rally that lasted 2 hours, and they walked to a church that survived the burning of the Tulsa Massacre. And it was, then they had a speaker there, the keynote speakers, and other advocates that were there to teach our students really had interaction with them. Over a 2-day period, they attended these Action Institute courses where they learned more about what they could take back to their community for racial harmony. Each course was about 60 minutes in length, and they were split into smaller groups, so a lot of small groups, one-on-one at work about taking what they learned back to their community. The Greenwood Rising Museum, they toured the museum, and it was pretty interactive. They said that they listened to the stories and different things about the event, and that's really where they learned the most, was when they toured the museum. And all of this, which was completely free and paid for by Team Harmony. All they had to do was get there. All meals and accommodations were paid for. So this is a short video that Team Harmony put out about the event. Maybe. No. So as you can see, there was a lot going on in 3 days. And tonight with us, we have 2 students who attended. First, we have Mr. Charles Beard. He's a 2023 CBY graduate of Columbia Public Schools, Rockbridge. And I have 2 questions that Mr. Beard is going to talk about his experience. So you want to come on up, Mr. Beard? Oh, yep, sorry. Thank you. If you want to go ahead and come up here. The first question that we have for Mr. Beard this evening is, what stuck out to you the most with your student trip?
Well, the thing that stuck out to me most, on the trip was when we visited the museum, which taught us about Black Wall Street, a thriving community of Black business owners and entrepreneurs, which was burned down by a group of white nationalists in the efforts to heal afterwards.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Beard. The second question that we have for you is, what did you learn from this experience?
I learned that I need to educate myself more on this country's troubled past so that I can help my community more.
Thank you for sharing, Mr. Beard. Second, go ahead. You can have a seat. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yes, please. Thank your school board. Thank you, Mr. Beard, for remembering what you were supposed to do. I do appreciate that. So second, we have Braden. Okay, just keep rolling. So second, we have Braden McCollum. He's a 2023 CBY graduate from Battle High School, and we're going to ask him a couple questions as well. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
First question we have for you is, what part of the trip impacted you the most?
A part of the trip that impacted me the most was probably when I walked into this room that was filled with over 300 people of different ethnicities. And it just stuck with me, being that we were all in there for the same exact reason. And that was just really strong. It felt love everywhere, you know. And during the rally, we went to this church that was one of the only buildings still standing after the massacre, after everything was burned down. And that was just really strong, being in there and knowing that that was history, that was historic, and that was something that these people went with. That's a building still up. It was a lot. It was beautiful.
Ready for your second question? What did you learn?
A lot. Specifically, the Tulsa Massacre. I had not heard of it. Could probably speak for a lot of people. They probably have not heard of it either. And I feel like that is something that should be, brought out and talked about more, because a lot of people were affected during this. A lot of people of color were affected, and their businesses, the stuff they own, their houses, property, all burned down, and they got no reimbursement, nothing. Wasn't even talked about on the news, kind of thing. Like that's a lot. Yeah.
So, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I would also like to share with you. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Yeah.
I would also like to share with you that Braden leaves tomorrow on an airplane to Washington, D.C. By himself, which his mother shared with me. She was a little nervous, but so excited for him. He's leaving to go to the National Youth Employment Coalition for Youth Days in D.C. This event will foster education and empowerment for both young people and practitioners. Youth Days in D.C. creates a platform where attendees' voices can be uplifted and celebrated. Braden will have the chance to meet with key federal decision makers to amplify the shared asks related to the policies that impact opportunity youth the most. They will also gain expertise in how federal law impacts the work and their life. They will have opportunity to connect with like-minded folks from around the country and walk away with resources that they can use in their day-to-day lives. This trip is sponsored by Youth Build USA and JobPoint, so we're so proud of Braden that he gets to go to DC too. In addition, I would like to thank Ms. London. When I came to her with this idea that I had learned She was not, without hesitation, let's try to make this happen. Let's do this. And Ms. London has always supported everything we do. So thank you.
So thank you to our amazing scholars, now graduates of Columbia Public Schools, Charles and Braden, as well as Ms. Mallory Henry for accompanying them on the trip, for sharing your experiences. We really look forward to the contributions that you will continue to make to our Columbia community after your learning. A really great big thank you to Dr. Siegel for spearheading so much of this program, and Mr. Vince Thompson, our Director of Student Services. Vince, wave back there. Vince and Katie are nonstop. We are constantly looking for alternative options for students for whom the traditional learning setting is just not working. And so their tireless leadership, their advocacy for these alternative options and opportunities for our scholars is just unmatched. So I appreciate your support of them and our continued efforts to try to make learning valuable for every student in Columbia Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. London, Ms. Siegel, Mr. Beard, Mr. McCollum. That was really wonderful, and good luck to you in DC. Enjoy it and have fun. And we'll next hear from our teacher group representatives. We'll hear from CMNEA President Noel Gilzo, followed by CMSTA President Carrie Stith.
Always such a tough act to follow. Good evening. I am Noelle Gilzo, President of CMNEA. We offer sincerest congratulations to Sothvik for his impressive achievements in science and thank him for the inspirational speech at our convocation in August. Additionally, it was fantastic to hear from the CYB graduates who attended the Harmony Action Institute. All of these students are examples of CPS excellence. Such recognitions are a great way to start each board meeting, and we look forward to student and staff recognitions in the coming months. This year, CMNEA will continue our work to engage our members. We will host 4 local representative assemblies, the first later this month. We will also engage members in district and local committee work, and we will continue discussions surrounding equity with our partner association, CMSTA. We provide many opportunities for our members to contribute their views and talents in a variety of ways, and we look forward to a year of accomplishments in our organization and in our classrooms. We are now beginning our 4th week of school. Can you believe it? And things are starting to settle into a normal groove. Bus routes are running more smoothly with fewer missed routes and late pickups. Students are coming to school mostly ready to learn. The feeling is different this year. It's better. Additionally, the district bargain committees have begun to meet, establishing their work for this year. There is a great promise in these collaborations between the district admin and the union as we prepare for negotiations next semester. As the exclusive bargaining representatives, we will work for improved compensation and working conditions for the teacher unit because we know that our working environment is our students' learning environment. The partnership cannot end there, however. We have significant challenges ahead of us where all stakeholders must work together to address student academic achievement. We know that iReady and state test scores are only a small measure of our students' abilities and promise, but we are held accountable as schools and as a district for our performance on them. So, we need to seek solutions together to improve these measures while honoring each whole person in our classes. Teachers, administrators, educational support personnel, and families all play a role in shaping these remarkable humans. Let's work together for the betterment of all who enter our schools. Ray Lingenfelter said it artfully, So I leave you with a poem. Unity. I dreamed I stood in a studio and watched two sculptors there. The clay they used was a young child's mind, and they fashioned it with care. One was a teacher, and the tools she used were books and music and art. One was a parent with a guiding hand and a gentle, loving heart. And when at last their work was done, they were proud of what they had wrought. For the things they had worked into the child could never be sold or bought. And each agreed she would have failed if she had worked alone. For behind the parent stood the school, and behind the teacher stood the home. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate the opportunity to address the board on behalf of CMNEA. Good evening.
Good evening. The 23-24 school year has begun. 4 weeks. Wow. Seems like it just started yesterday. Teachers across the district have welcomed students to this outstanding district. They worked hard to make sure that all students and families felt welcomed and ready for an amazing school year. The endless dedication to our educators' willingness to do whatever it takes to make sure that all of our families and students feel welcomed and loved is proof that we have the CPS best educators. We welcomed back everyone, all of our educators, with the gathering of all teachers and staff from across the district. The team building and being able to reconnect with teachers from across the district was uplifting. Seeing all the cheerleaders, football players, and mascots was terrific. Took me back to my childhood. Hearing our students share inspirational words was a highlight for teachers. We can't start this year out though without a huge shout out to our tech and aid department. This was a whirlwind start with Infinite Campus and trying to learn a new system. Then with Schoology and Google having major issues all on their end, the tech and aid departments worked so hard to help teachers and work with those companies to get our teachers back up and running. We can't control technology, but it's great to know that we have a team that is willing to go the extra mile to get us back online and ready for the school year. Teachers are still very concerned about the lack of staffing. We still have positions open or waiting for an educator to start their school year. We hope that we can look more closely at this in the future to make sure that we have a full staff on site. It is great to see so many people being recognized in our district. Mr. Kanan inspired all educators at Convocation. Blake, you have worked so hard for our district, and we thank you for going the extra mile and getting extra certifications for your position. Thank you, Pat Wellmeyer. I can't even begin to start on your expertise in HR. You can answer any question and are so kind and caring to all CPS employees. Pat has helped new employees and veteran teachers throughout her time. She is knowledgeable, caring, and well-deserving of her award. Once again, I want to thank Heather MacArthur and her team. She always makes me remember her team. Their knowledge and care for our district is why they win awards year after year. To sit in a meeting with Heather and have her explain the financial plan of our district is enlightening and amazing. I have learned so much from your amazing team and you. On the agenda tonight, we will see so many outstanding programs that are offered at CPS, such as Max Scholars, the Nature School, Fine Art Experiences, programs for work agreements. These programs are what make CPS stand out. These many different programs give every student a place to shine. So thank you for always supporting these programs that our students thrive in. As we continue to hear from scholars this evening, I want to thank the board and Dr. Yearwood for listening to this idea from the joint efforts of CMNEA and CMSTA. I hope that this is a monthly highlight for you as well, because it is for us. It is also great to see that we are moving forward on the Battle Elementary Edition and the plans for the new Southwest Elementary School presented this week. These areas of town are growing fast, and many schools are growing quickly. We feel the excitement of our growing district to provide an outstanding education for all. Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you, President Skilzo and Steph. We'll move on to our report of the superintendent. Dr. Yearwood has an achievement update for us.
Okay, good evening, President Waters, Board of Education. This evening we are about to talk more about where we are as a district, our data, and we'll of course conclude with some of the things that we'll be doing to be able to mitigate some of the opportunities that have presented themselves. If it would work. No. But
Okay, I just went on there.
let's give us a Murphy's Law is working very healthily.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. Using the clicker, any ideas?
Okay. Here they come. Here's the cavalry.
Do you want to try this so I'm not?
He's coming. You'll have to-
Oh, that just went off the screen.
It's a PDF, so it probably won't work with
The clicker won't work.
Yeah.
It's not my fault.
Hold on.
Here's not gonna work. Yeah.
What are you using?
Oh, it does work.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
The clicker works.
It's this thing that's getting in the way.
That's the click share.
Do you want to click?
It's working.
You want to click?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So again, we are always in problem-solving mode in education. This is one example of it. As we look at our model for this year, we talk about inspiring greatness with intentionality. In other words, we want to ensure that our actions are conducive to inspiring our scholars, regardless of where they are. And when you talk about inspiring a scholar, you know that inspiration, you don't know where it's going to stop. But for us to understand how we're doing, to take a measuring stick of how we're doing, we must understand who we are. And we must be able to talk about, remember our vision statement. Remember our mission statement. Remember the values that we hold true in our district. And if you're going to be the best school district in the state, it's going to take internal and external stakeholders with a passionate, non-compromising action, non-compromising view to be able to move our scholars to that level of inspiration. And that's what we're about. Let's look at our focus areas for this year. As we look at inspiration, how are we planning to get there? One, creating high expectations for all scholars, making sure they have a year's worth of growth in a year's time. Minimum. Improving core instruction for all scholars, a variety of ways, looking at our professional development, looking at what teaching and learning is actually looking like, developing things like instructional frameworks and so on, which is number 3. To ensure that there are commonalities within our schools as we build towards creating a school system, not a system of schools. So again, we have our CSIP that we've spoken about with our goals. As we look at our primary goals that focus on attendance, 90% of our scholars attending school at least 90% of the time. We have seen some growth, but we have some more work to do. We're also talking about the goal of reducing the number of out-of-school suspensions. Every time a scholar is suspended from school, that is approximately 2 or 3 days of learning that they're missing. So we want to reduce that number considerably. We're looking at decreasing by 10% by 26-27. And our final goal, the percent of scholars who are proficient or advanced on our state tests will increase by 3% each year. Now we know that the test is not exclusive. By saying that, that's not the only way that we will measure progress, but we're working on other aspects of ensuring that our scholars are learning and growing in the area of achievement, but also as we look at the whole child, what opportunities, what are better opportunities, how can we actually engage our scholars so they feel inspired. So we'll be talking more about that as time goes on. So at this point, we're going to talk about, this is where we are. We must acknowledge where we are with our data to be able to craft that roadmap to take us to the future, to take us to those higher levels that we know we will accomplish here in Columbia. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Porter.
So this is a snapshot of our APR. You know, and you remember that we are at 70% for our accreditation status. And we just have this line here that's the median, the middle number in relation to our secondary schools top right. So that line that you see there is the middle number. You can see where kind of everyone falls. And then high schools, we also have the median just in that high school group. You remember that Battle has about 1,500 scholars. Hickman and Rockbridge have about 2,000. Douglas fluctuates about 180 to 200, and so we can't do an average. So that's why we decided to do the median score to make sure that everyone kind of knows what that line means. And then elementary is the same below. We have some schools below the median line by quite a ways, and some schools exceeding, as you can clearly see. So our goal is to move all of those up, and so that we can really show the achievement of our scholars and the hard work of our teachers, and moving forward to raise that number for all schools, not just the schools that are below it. Oh. Did you click? You clicked and then I clicked.
All right. So what you have in front of you on the screens, we continuously talk about data. We talk about iReady, we talk about MAP. The data that you're seeing in front of you is all derived from iReady scores. One of the things that we wanted to make sure we focused on as we gave updates to the board is where did we land when we talk about our winter benchmark, our falls, and also our springs. So if you're looking on the right where you see on grade level or mid to above grade level, that is where our students fell from kinder and second grade last year. And so an area that we didn't discuss previously was this Lexile section. And so I want to talk a little bit about why we're looking at this. We've been trying to identify ways to support not only the learning of our students and the support of our teachers on a gradual basis, but we also recognize that iReady was done in weeks intervals and MAP is only done once a year. And so we continue to look down the Lexile and also quantiles, you'll see that here shortly, to sort of guide us and gauge how are we making progress with regard to student performance. In this data set, what you're looking at is we've established for ourselves internally some metrics to look at presently. We still have to wait till we get some MAP results so that we can do some more analytics to this. But what we're looking at here is when we look at Lexile levels in kinder, first, and second grade, there's a range of students within that Lexile level where we would say those students are on pace to be at least above that 50% range of on grade level. So that gives them the 50-50 chance. We still have to do our analytics on it. And so if you look at it, you will see that we have students by the end of kindergarten that were on grade level at 82%, and mid to above grade level. If we're talking MAP, that's going to be like the advanced. And so we don't take MAP in kinder, first, and second. I just want to make sure to reiterate that. But that's what we would be looking at if we're talking about on grade level or mid to above grade level. Equally, we wanted to make sure that we could break down this data looking at our third, fourth, fifth through eighth. As we continue to look at the data, what we're trying to ascertain is how do we start to act faster? What are some of the metrics that we can look at? So looking at this Lexile level again allows for us to go back and review our resources to see whether or not we are supporting our students with respect to those resources and are we in alignment. Additionally, when we talk about that proficiency and mastery, this gives us action steps even between the windows of those benchmark assessments that we are taking. So that is what we are looking at when you're looking at that Lexile level side as well. And you will see, for instance, I'm going to go just to third grade. If I'm talking about by the spring, we had 69% of our students who were in a Lexile range that gave them over a 50% chance of being at proficient or above proficiency. And so that is how we're looking at this data set. Again, we are eager to get our hands on our finalized map results so that we can do some additional analysis so that we can get to some of that work. But beyond that, we do grade level breakdowns, and we also dive a little deeper into that data set. We also did the same thing from a quantile perspective. That gives us where we at in mathematics. So equally, when you're talking about ability levels in literacy, we're talking about ability levels in our mathematics. And so you will see similar and comparable data sets with respect to that on grade level as well as in the quantile or lexile level. Again, this is something that we are looking at right now so that we can continue to make some action steps for us, as well as to derive some of our communication back to our parents. And so we work with our NSK-12 partners as well as iLearn to continue to build. And again, I want to say thank you all for approving those partnerships because they support us in really making sure that we can look at our plans from a robust lens, 60,000-foot view, and get those down to the student level. And so I want to thank you all for that again. From that perspective, we take these quantiles and these lexiles, and we also look at this in the secondary level as well. So if I'm going 3rd through 8th grade level, you will see comparable data sets again. Our focus here is to look at, again, how can we take more action steps with respect to our students' ability levels and be more proactive. These conversations will be ongoing through the course of the year so that we can actually look and see how are we faring with respect to our quantile and lexile levels as it pertains to that proficiency and mastery rate. Again, getting those MAP scores back will be helpful for us.
One of the things that was important to us when we came tonight was to try to present the data as a district in a manner that's similar to the fashion that you'll see it from principals about their individual buildings as the year progresses. So we have created these snapshots essentially for the district as well as individual buildings. So we want you to get familiar with this format so that you'll see it again and again and be able to quickly just make conclusions from what you're seeing. One of the things that's important to us as a district is that we don't look at just overall results or even just grade level results. We break down by subgroups because oftentimes our subgroups tell us a different story about what's going on in our district. So race is the first one that we usually look at, and when we look at any of our dashboards for our administrators, race is always the first setting, like it's the default setting because we always want it right out there in front of them. As you can see, we do have steady progress in every racial category from fall to spring. Our scholars grow every year. They always grow. Sometimes they don't grow as much as we would like them to, but they are always growing. What you're seeing here on the screen is strictly grades 3 through 8. I just want to make sure that you understand that, but also you're going to see the lexile on there as well. And these are the bands that Dr. B gave us to help us to understand what was considered on level as far as reading or math. When you flip next to math, you can see again that we still have steady progress, not as strong a progress as we do in reading, but we do continue to have a nice upward projectile in those. You will see the growth check on these as well. From last year, we actually did 2 growth checks, but this coming year, we're just doing 1 growth check so that it matches a new state law that came across at all grade levels. And then, of course, we have EL for both reading and math. And many of our students with English, who are English learners, come in not knowing English at all. And so it's not surprising that they have lower scores in reading. We're working on getting those up as quickly as we can and getting them acclimated to our environment. In math, they do tend to score better, but there is still a significant reading component to math, and so that can interfere with those results as well. We also have our 2 other subgroups that I want to mention. We have our students who are on special education, our scholars, and again, we see a nice steady increase on those. The funny thing about special education, though, is just as soon as you get them on grade level, you take them out of special education and then they don't go into that subgroup anymore. So that's one that we're always working on pushing up. And then the last group that's really important to us, not that other groups aren't, but these are ones that we're highlighting, is our scholars who are on free and reduced lunch. So again, just that nice steady upward trend, and reading is just a little bit stronger. So I'm going to turn it over to, oh, no, I got one more slide. So this is something that Dr. Yearwood wanted you guys to see. When we look at those iReady scores, they break down into something equivalent to what the map gives us. So we've talked about proficiency. That's usually what we talk about. But the map actually gives us scores that are below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. So it's always important to us to know about the scholars who started off as below basic but got out of it. And so that's what this graph represents. So you see it in both math and reading. In math, we had 4,730 scholars in grades 3 through 8 who were at the below basic level when they started the school year. But that dropped down to roughly 3,000 by the end of the school year. So roughly a third of those who were in those lower levels moved up, either to basic or even higher. And then with reading, we started off with 2467 and got it down to 1781. So again, just another way that we're demonstrating the growth of our scholars over the school year. Okay.
Okay, so you can see how passionate Dr. Yearwood is about this plan because he stole our thunder for our first 3 slides. We were all ready to come up and he was going through. So kind of in line with what Devin was saying, so now that we have the information, what are we going to do about it? So how do we get ahead of it instead of just always after action reviewing? And so when we think about attendance, we have several plans that will be in place for next year. So principals and secondary school counselors are going to create scholar intervention plans for attendance specifically. Homeschool communicators, as you know, who already regularly make home visits to check on students who are missing for a day or two, will be increasing those home visits. And really that's always with an intention to figure out, is there something that we can do to assist you in getting to school? Teachers and staff will increase positive referrals and recognition of scholars. We know that everybody does something right at least once a day. So finding that good thing that they're doing and building on that so that we can get more of that really does have positive and powerful impacts. Elementary principals will also recognize scholars with outstanding attendance. And then, as we know, we have the 5, 10, and 15-day attendance letters that will continue to go home. Staff will continue to call families when we have concerns about attendance for our students. In addition, something that's not on here, but we also want to sort of go back and look at those days that are historically high absence throughout the years, if we can see some sort of patterns there, and focus on what we can do to sort of get ahead of that. Is there a day that a lot of kids seem to be missing school? Is it a day after a particular event, and what can we do in school to make it more enticing than staying home the day after the event? So again, school counselors following up with scholars who have dropped out of school and completing that each school year, both in Devin and Helen's, Dr. Porter's positions are going to increase access to alternative school completion. You just saw a couple of our scholars who were up here who had gone through an alternative path. And then they will also evaluate district graduation requirements and procedures to identify any potential barriers that might be getting in the way of our students. Thank you. Around discipline, what are we going to do? So we spent about 5 years creating this wonderful behavior education plan that principals actually created the plan. And so we're going to really be focusing in on helping teachers and building administrators learn how to use that effectively. As we know, COVID, a little something called COVID interrupted some of that rollout, but we're going to be very intentional as far as working with buildings this year. I will be having a regular review cycle of that behavior education plan and regular implementation training. Part of that regular review cycle will be what sounded good on paper when we were putting it together versus what actually is working in the classroom, maybe 2 different things. So bringing that group back together that helped to create it to say what's really working and what maybe needs to be tweaked. Evaluating behavior support needs, including staffing needs to provide assistance for schools. We know that we have continued to increase some of our outside community agencies' access to our youth, and we will continue to do that as well. Principals will implement discipline-oriented, multi-tiered systems of support teams to get ahead of. Again, we're really trying to be proactive, and what are some of the issues that might be leading up to becoming a behavior issue. We really want to get ahead of those. We will continue with our 2 equity trainings every year. I continue to hear feedback from teachers who have been teaching for 10, 15, 20 years and say that's the best training I've ever been in. We have a new administrator to the district who I will just briefly share that person's story. Said their previous district called and said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Going through equity training." And I said, "You've had tons of equity training. You don't need that." And she said, "No, this is the real deal. They're really having these conversations here. And I haven't had training like that before." So we will continue to require that. Opportunities for restorative practices training. We have increased those to 7 offerings this year, 7 2-day trainings. We've already had our first one. And so buildings will be able to continue to sign up for those. As a reminder, we used to have 2 a year. Now we have 7 opportunities. School and district administrators, again, in conjunction with the Mental Health Coalition, will administer this checklist that focuses on our social, emotional well-being of each of our scholars in the buildings and identifying areas of needs that we can be proactive in. And then district and school administrators will ensure a safe and nurturing learning environment that meets the needs of each and every one of our scholars. I will turn it over to Mr. Moore.
So what are we doing about achievement? So I'm going to read on a couple of these, but I'm also going to invite Dr. Seth Woods to come and join me here, up here as well. Because we know as much as we talk about the achievement and the things that we do with efforts, that also comes with some very strategic planning surrounding professional development, and we want to give you all a glimpse of that. So when we talk about achievement, and you look at that indicator 3.1, very first thing, implementing tutoring services and making sure that we can increase access to that. So again, we've expanded on our Tutor Me with respect to having access for that for our students. In addition to that, in October, mark your calendars, because we then will have our start of our in-person tutoring sessions for our students in their buildings and in their locations. And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we were doing was looking at the data and then supporting students. We know that we're coming up on the end of that first benchmark where we are trying to ascertain where they are academically, and now we know that we have the data in place to support them, and so that will begin in October. We've already gone through the district organizational structure that was prioritized in our audit and led by Dr. Yearwood. And then you just heard about multi-tiered systems of support. Those are going to be ongoing. When we talk about the systems of support, those don't just exist around attendance, and those don't just exist around discipline. We also have to do the same thing within the academic environment. And so making sure that we have a clear understanding as to what those systems are and how we're going to support our students, that's going to be ongoing work for us this year. And we look forward to working alongside our teachers to develop and continue to have those discussions about what is best supporting our scholars with respect to that work. Our principals are continuing to give their principal-led data days. We are going to expand upon that in this academic school year, and we are now having our coordinators also walk us through some of the things that they are seeing with respect across the district. So we will get a view from the lens of in a building, but we'll also get a view from the lens of across the district with respect to our coordinators, giving us some more regular updates on this area as well. When we talk about the high-yield instructional strategies and making sure that we are visible in the classroom, those observations or those walks, they really give us inventory. They give us inventory to be able to give us direction as to what are we doing well, what are we not doing well, what can we enhance upon, and where do we need to gauge a little bit of our professional development and support of our teachers, as well as our building administrators when we talk about them as the instructional leaders. We also have where you look at the evaluating our instructional supports. That's looking at staff, that's working with HR and saying to them, hey, here are some of the areas we feel like we may need to enhance some of our practices. You all have been gracious enough to increase our number of instructional mentors and coaches. We continue to deploy them out into our buildings and be a support in the learning environment, that way that it's happening in the moment. And so that's that job embedded professional development, and they are hard at work even as we speak. But we also know this comes with the lens of like, okay, we know this is the list, but how are you accomplishing it? What does professional development look like? And so up here with me, I have Dr. Seth Woods to give you all a quick overview of what these professional development days consist of and how we got there.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. First of all, thank you for giving me a little bit of your time this evening. I just want to talk a little bit about how we're designing PD. And for me, and I hope for all, that design of PD comes from the information that we have. Okay, and so what I mean by that information, We have a teacher survey data, which we initially sent out over the summer, and I shared again last week, and more responses are coming in with that. We also have data on student achievement, which you've seen this evening. We have discipline data. We have attendance data. We have data from the Boone County Schools Mental Health Coalition. We have a lot of data to analyze. But to me, well, not just to me, but I want to be able to utilize that data so that we can leverage learning in a way that makes sense to address the biggest needs of the district. And hopefully also those needs and interests line up, right? Like hopefully everything is high need and high interest, and the learning goes that way every time. As you know, we have several PD days coming up here in October. And so at present time, the plan is to have 3 learning sites. We'll be using our comprehensive high schools, likely focusing on the next few topics that I'm going to share. Technically, our survey with teachers is open until tomorrow. I looked at the data at 4 o'clock this afternoon. I don't think it will change much in the next, 18 hours, but I won't eliminate the possibility. But the leading categories, or I guess the leading areas of interest at present time, is a focus on increasing student engagement, differentiated instructional strategies, breaking down standards, and trauma-informed teaching. And so at present time, assuming nothing changes between now and tomorrow afternoon, those will be the focuses of those days, with a different focus at each building. And so those were 4 things. One of the buildings will pull double duty, okay? And then the staff will be broken into groups and travel between the 3 buildings, 1 per day. And then my hope is after that is more information. Next is more data and more info. And I'm probably showing off my math background, like I was a math teacher when I taught. And so I get really excited about numbers and information. But my plan is to have surveys and feedback for not only the sessions that we have in these upcoming PD days, but also an overall evaluation of the experience. So that we have information about individual topics, but also just about how we delivered that PD. In collaboration with the Professional Development Committee, we'll be conducting a needs assessment later this school year. My hope is to head out on a listening tour among buildings to also hear teacher voices after the October PD days, and also continue to monitor student data. To me, those avenues of information are how we determine our needs and make the next plan.
I just want to say thank you, Dr. Seth Woods. That's it.
Yes. Dr. Woods came on board this year as part of the reorganization, being a principal at Bueller Ralph, and then coming on board with us as the director of professional development. And I tell you, the quality and the caliber of work that Shelley Adams did a fantastic job before. Dr. Woods has already come on board, and he's already blasting through. He's doing some magnificent work. He's getting things organized. He's ahead of the curve. He's not behind it or close to it. He's way ahead. And I just want to applaud him for that. Not only that, but I don't know if you knew this or not, but he was the highest, his attendance rose the highest among all the schools when we started looking at data. So I just want to thank him for stepping up from what he did, and thank you for what you're doing now. I'd like to give him a round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm not going to keep much more time. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of heavy lifting to do, because Columbia will be, like our vision statement said, the best. And the only way we get to be the best is by being the best, which we will be. At this point, any questions from the board?
Go ahead, Ms. Burrow.
My fingers aren't very strong. I had a question about tracking the attendance. Since we have these new PD days added in this year, are we going to be looking at what the attendance looks like close to those couple of clumps that we've added in? I think that would be good to look at.
Okay. So I just want to have it. So looking at the attendance of our scholars around the PD days.
Yeah, the ones that we have in October where you have 3 days,
Oh, yes.
and then the 2 at the end of the month,
Yeah.
We had some feedback. Yeah, because there had been some feedback from parents that they were like, yay, I'll just take a long week. So I'd like to see how that plays out. I don't necessarily, I'd like for you guys to see how that plays out. And then our additional tutoring that'll be offered will start in October? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, okay. Also, 2 questions about attendance, which is just, Ms. London made the comment, we're working on this plan for next year. Is that this, okay, that's what I thought. I realized, like, for this upcoming, the year we're in, right, like, moving forward, perfect. And then I was also just curious, are we not, or at what point do we start sending, like, the emails to parents when their kids have an unexcused absence, for example, at the high school level? I may or may not have been running a little late and happened to know that maybe one of my children missed a class, and I know I was not notified. And so I'm just curious when we think about attendance so that maybe there aren't surprises when we suddenly get that letter at 5 days and all of that.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, awesome. So just so I'm clear, you said you did not get a phone call, is that right? Okay, so I'm going to right now chalk that up to the newness of the beginning of the year here, but you should be getting a phone call anytime that your child is not in class.
And we just reviewed the letters to go out for those attendance letters, and so those will be finalized in the next probably 24 hours.
I have a question about the chief schools officer and academic officer will evaluate instructional supports to determine additional staffing. Do you have any kind of idea, like, when you'll have enough information to be able to make recommendations about FTE for the next budget season?
Thank you for this opportunity to use my new microphone. Oh gosh, I think a lot of that has to do, and Devin can jump in here too, with the ICs and the IMs. So we need to show their effectiveness, and we'll do that through data, especially school to school. So that's one of the ways that we'll fulfill that point.
I'm pressing my button.
No, it's still red.
Test. Oh, I'm not going to get that close. All right. I concur with what Dr. Porter said. We have to look at what our impact is with respect to our instructional coaches and our instructional mentors. But I think additionally, we get the ability now when we're talking about looking at our data on a gradual basis and with the principal-led data days as well as coordinator-led data days, that gives us the opportunity then to say, in those in-between times, what are some of the things that may be beneficial for each of those environments, and dialogue back and forth between our building level as well as central office level to start thinking through, because Heather will come to us and say it's one pot of money, but we also have these dialogues ongoing, and we try to make decisions around that January, even before January, when we are seeing some trends moving in a direction. So our FTE meetings will take place roughly February-ish. Am I wrong? Heather, you got me? February. And so we anticipate being able to make some of those decisions with this process, with data behind us, ongoing.
Yes, because there may be some campuses that may need additional support. Some may not need as much, but we want to make sure that we're a good steward of taxpayers' money and be able to allocate so that our scholars can benefit.
Thank you all so much for the presentation. I appreciate it. I also really enjoyed how y'all broke down the indicators, talking about what we are doing, what y'all are looking at doing, and where we're moving forward and what we're expecting. I think one of the things that would be very beneficial for us as a board, as we keep on looking at academics and we keep on talking about this, especially from a governance level kind of standpoint, when we're thinking about our budget priorities or our budget goals or our school environment goals as it relates to our budget, is really getting into this space of just using this as one example, right? I'm not saying this is the thing, but if we were to say, we really want to look at K2 and we really want to look at reading, really digging in beyond just the broad scope, but looking at our buildings and each building and saying, okay, what are our reading levels at there? What is the map and iReady showing? What are our teacher classroom sizes in each of those buildings? Do we, as a board, then, based off of that, if we said K2 reading is a deep focus, based off of that data, hypothetically here, once again, just repeating that for folks who are listening, moving into a space of then saying, you know, yes, we have a district-wide goal of what we want the student ratio to be in the classroom, but for K2, because we want to really focus on reading, we want to make it a little bit lower, and that's a budget priority goal, right? I think this is one of these things where broad overviews are great, but it's a lot of information, where really targeted pinpointing spaces can be very helpful for us into thinking about how we set up these our budget priorities, and how we move into that FTE space, as President Waters is kind of talking about, right? As we look at in those conversations you're having with principals, I think that could just be very helpful for us as a board, but also for our community, for there to be some guiding posts in that way. So I appreciate this. I think there's even more stuff we can dig into and do, and it's important. And so I just appreciate it. And I just wanted to share that I think that there is a lucrative opportunity for us to really think about our budget as it relates to our student achievement, but it also takes going beyond just the broad overview.
Yes, absolutely. We do delve in further into the data. We can tell you where our kindergartners, first and second graders are. Use that as an example, but you're absolutely right, because we know, for example, that those are critical years. We know that if a scholar is not reading at or above grade level by third grade, they struggle for the remainder. They could struggle. Some do overcome because their cognitive ability is different, but they struggle academically. So looking at making a high priority literacy and numeracy, especially for K1 and 2, that is on the map. That is being discussed. We just, we're just trying to give a broader sort of overview. But you are absolutely right. We do need to continue, I would say, to be laser focused on these areas. Letting the board know. Thank you. That's good. Yes.
I know that when we're in this room, we're looking at the district as a whole.
Yes.
But if I understand iReady and everything correctly, we can drill this down individually by school, which we've seen. But then can a principal then drill it down further to, I don't want to call out, a hallway or whatever, and say, hey, this third grade hallway in this particular classroom is having, one issue or another. They're not advancing as far or as fast as another classroom or other classrooms in the hallway in math or in reading. How user friendly is that for our principals to use and get out to the mass?
Okay, come on, Dave. I was going to answer, but Dave was answering.
You see me coming out of my seat there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very user-friendly. The principals can drill down into individual classrooms, even down into individual students, and seeing how they're doing. The iReady platform provides bands of basically what percentage of students and how many students in each classroom are performing at the various levels within the grade. And then on top of that, we have Tableau dashboards that show the growth over time down to individual teachers, down to grade levels, whatever we need them to do, so that we can find those just rock star teachers and use them for professional development to help other teachers as well.
And Mr. Lyman, sorry to interrupt. We've tasked Dr. Day, Mrs. Laverne, and Dr. Taylor to have those conversations with principals as they do their one-on-ones, especially starting strong in September. So that's already on their agenda to discuss.
And we've used a psychometrician. He's developed, helped to sort of enlighten us on a growth and achievement platform. I think he showed this some time before. We were able to drill down to the teacher level, the individual teacher level. Why? So that way we can enhance what they're doing, we can promote what they're doing, we can provide additional assistance, because we want to ensure that every teacher, that they're growing more scholars. Remember, the key is growth. We don't expect them to go from 0 to 100. I mean, it would be nice if they could, that'd be excellent. But realistically, we want to make sure that every teacher is doing the craft of teaching and growing scholars. And if not, then as a district, what assistance can we provide for them so that they can have the tools to do so? So yes, teacher level. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Yearwood.
Thank you, ma'am.
It was an impressive presentation. I know that you and your staff are grinding this out all day long, every day, and we appreciate the work that everyone on the team is doing to move the needle. It's impressive. We will move on to our workforce development update with Mr. Gooch.
All right. I don't know about you. If you want to do a seventh inning stretch while I boot up my presentation, I understand that. All right. Got to do something different with those hard seats. They're rough. Okay. Let's see. Well, we're at the end. Lovely. All right. We are there. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you tonight about workforce development. The good thing is I'm not going to talk much about this because I have 4 rock stars in this segment, this category, to tell you about students, student stories, impact of students. It was interesting when Seth Woods was talking about engagement. This is truly an area in which we have to engage students deeply. And I think as you listen tonight, you will definitely hear a lot about student engagement. COVID did a number on a lot of things, and it kind of, it slowed our momentum considerably on what we do as a district with workforce development. And I think when you hear a little bit about what Brandon and Stacy are going to be talking about, that really deep immersion into workforce development, it was tough on that. But like it's been stated much tonight, there's a different feel. I think we're getting some traction, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the future looks like. But I want to kind of paint what the current reality is. And this is kind of an elusive creature. I don't know. My wife is a quilter. So she takes all this fabric, cuts it up into little bitty pieces, and puts it together, and you start getting these beautiful quilts. Well, she has so many started that there are a lot that have some pieces missing or she hasn't gotten back to. So although we have the works of a great quilt and a great end product, we still have some holes. And there are some things that we need to complete and do better to really serve our students better. So we know that. But in Columbia Public Schools, it's very difficult to find and know, and any 1 or 2 or 3 people know everything that's going on that has some connection to workforce development, because it's happening all across the district. At every level, every grade level, there are pieces of workforce development that are being put in. So we're going to highlight some tonight, but don't think this is the entirety of it. But we also know that we still have some quilt blocks that need to be made to complete this process. So with that being said, I'm going to bring Katie Siegel once again to the podium. You saw her earlier. She's going to share kind of some things that she works with specifically in this area of workforce development, and then she'll introduce the next person on the panel, and then we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions or make comments, okay? It's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Gooch. I want to start off by saying that I could not do what I do to support our students if it wasn't for the support of the board and the cabinet. In addition, my director for student services, Elise Menses, is a huge support. In this process of growing our workforce development and special education, you guys see the MOUs that come through and all of the connections and relationships and partnerships that we have in this community. And I appreciate your support. It's nice to be able to go to a business and ask for a partnership, and then when they say, you know, what do we do to move forward? And I say, we have an MOU, and you're gonna sign a copy, and then we're gonna wait a little while and put it on the agenda and make sure that our school board members see it and then approve, and then it comes back to me. And they say, it has to go to the school board? Absolutely, because they 110% support what we're doing with workforce development and special education. And with that being said, I wanted to just start off with that I would not be able to provide the services and partnerships in this community if it wasn't for your support as a board and cabinet. So thank you. We'll start first by going to the work-based learning timeline. So we are currently serving 167 students enrolled in the program, which is typically a lot of our, it's all high school, 9 through 12. And those numbers are out of just the 4 high school special education students with IEPs. So that does not include 504s. So we start typically 9th grade. We have a work exploration class that is taught by our work experience coordinator, and each high school has what is called a WEC, work experience coordinator. So that is taught. We use a lot of Missouri connections. That's where they take some assessments to learn about what they think they want to be. We really come from a platform of, we want you to just think about what you want to be, but we know it's going to change. I'm not at my first job, and I'm likely none of you are as well. So we always talk about how that changes throughout the timeline. So work exploration is taught in the building, and once they begin to learn more about working, build resumes, talk about interviews, all those key components that are so important in this field, they then start to do a community outing or so, or maybe they'll have a building level job. But it's basically a classroom that stays in the building when the WEC teaches it. Past that, they go out into the community in a work block class. So typically work block classes are for 10th and 11th graders. We also do community outings for all of our district classrooms. It was mentioned earlier this evening about our RISE classroom, so that would be a community outing and a work block class. When I took this position, those classrooms went out a couple times a week, and they did a lot of building level jobs. However, since then, we have been able to increase the opportunities. In addition, our RISE classrooms have also increased in numbers in each building. They go out typically, for the most part, 4 to 5 days a week. Some of the teachers choose to stay in, and maybe they'll do a cooking unit or a laundry unit or something during that time. But they go out into the community, and when they go there, like she was talking about Shakespeare's and Goodwill and Salvation Army, they're doing a variety of things. We want to expose them to a lot of different things. We want to learn what they like doing, and we want to know what their interests are. So the teachers are who keep the data on that, and they keep the data then to report for their IEP goals, and that's what drives what I help with is the transition plan in an IEP. How can we help that a family and their students transition post-secondary to whatever life looks like after they're with us at Columbia Public Schools. So in those work block outings, they are a smaller class. They have the ability to do a lot of one-on-one interaction. They go to different places. I'm going to use MU dining as an example. Are many of you familiar with Mort's? Okay, our kids are in there. They're learning how to cut chicken, batter chicken, fried chicken. Do I want to work in fast food, or do I want to be on the line cooking? Do I want to learn more how to cook for myself? Or do I want to learn how to portion things because I'm really not about the cooking? Or maybe I just want to stock drinks and help take trays back. So we give them a variety of things to do there at the MU dining, and that is just one of our many outings that we go to. A work block class goes out every single day they have class. So and it's alternating A and B days. So when I took this position, we had 1 work block class at each high school. I can now say that we have 3 work block classes at each high school, and they go out every day. Every day they get on a bus, they go somewhere different, they volunteer, and then they come back. It's a volunteer work-based learning experience. So this is what gives the teacher data to then report to the case manager of how we can grow them as individuals. So if we have a student that's doing an amazing job in work block and headed in a direction of they are a solid competitive wage-based employee, then we want to progress them. We want to move them into an internship. We want to move them into an apprenticeship. We want to work to get them paid through whether it's working with us or one of our community partners. So we do have a lot of different programs that come from work block students then moving up. So typically 11th or 12th graders are the ones in our internship programs and our paying programs. This is just a snapshot of some of the partnerships that we have throughout our community. These are whether it's an internship or whether it's a work block class or a RISE classroom, going to these different places and learning skills. As you can see, my job becomes easier because we live in such a giving community. As you said earlier, Ms. Waters, we are so blessed to be in a community that gives back to us. I have no problems or issues going into a business to say, hey, this is what I think. How would you feel about a group of students coming 45 minutes to an hour? They're going to volunteer, learn more about working. Can we come to your place of business? I've only been told a few times, no, but for the most part, it's always, yes, we'd love to partner with you guys. So I feel like that, and I know that we live in a giving community, and I know that we have the success with the work-based learning that we do because of the community we live in. And I know this because I'm a transition liaison for DESE for the state of Missouri. And I talk to other school districts about what we're doing. And they're like, we go to businesses. We ask businesses. They don't want our students to come. I'm like, well, not in Columbia, because we are very blessed to live in this community. So I am able to help other people throughout the state help build their own work-based learning and really grow individuals for that post-secondary transition experience. So I do have a short video. Mr. Gooch asked us to share some business highlights and a student highlight, or to talk about it. Well, instead of talking about it, I want you to hear from our businesses and I want you to hear from our student. So I'm going to share this video with you now.
Over the past 5 years, Columbia Public School District Special Services has worked diligently to increase the work-based learning opportunities for our students. We've done this by creating additional classes, volunteer programs, paying jobs, and internships. We've been able to accomplish this by creating over 40 partnerships within our community and offering many agency connections which our families can then utilize for a lifespan. I would now like to highlight 2 partnerships and a student's experience of our work-based learning opportunities within Columbia Public Schools Special Services.
Hi, my name is Michaela and I'm a manager here at Level Up Entertainment, and we work with the student work-based learning experience with CPS for about 3 years. We hire about 2 to 3 employees each year and their work is absolutely phenomenal. We enjoy having them here and we cannot wait for the future with them.
Hi, I'm Amy Birgo, the Executive Director at Cedarhurst Senior Living. I've worked with the work-based programs at Columbia Public Schools for about 3 years now. The value as an employer is tremendous. My staff are able to teach and educate and share the workload with the students, and the students really bring a lot of joy in this environment. My residents enjoy interacting with them, my staff enjoy teaching, and the students get a lot out of the diverse experience that senior living can provide for them. They're able to interact with others, they're able to work in different departments, and really the experience overall for both sides is incredibly valuable.
Hi, my name is Dylan. I graduated last May from Battle High School. My 10th grade year, I worked with the KO program at a small food pantry. My 11th grade year, I volunteered at the neighborhood's assisted living. I was so successful, I then went to work at the University Hospital second semester. I worked in university during my senior year as nutrition associate. I am still an employee there, but now work at the cafe and MRI. I like helping people and working with food. Thank you, CPS.
Us at Special Services to provide these opportunities. We have a classroom at Columbia Mall. Stop by, come see us. We have over, I think, 11, almost 12, we're getting the 12th one on board, employees at the University Hospital that are paid by the university. They're their employees. We have employees and we have students that are employees at BCFR, Boone County Family Resources here in town. So we have so many of our programs that aren't just volunteer-based, but they're actually paying our students. This will be the second year. We've been doing the STEP program, Seamless Transition Exceptional Partnerships, which is based at the Columbia Mall. As you know, during COVID, we weren't able to be housed at the Boone Hospital anymore, so I created a partnership with the Columbia Mall, and they give us a classroom. With that being said, this is the 14th year for the STEP program. I've had it 5, and this will be the second year that we're able to get our interns paid working through a federal program. So we are very excited that as we progress through this work-based learning experience, that we are able to provide more and more opportunities for our students. So thank you guys. I am going to introduce Mr. Melky, Jeff Melky, who is the principal at Oakland Middle School, and he is going to tell you about his work-based learning there at the middle school.
Good evening, board. First of all, I had the pleasure the last 2 summers of going to the Show Me Careers Educator experience, and that was kind of the impetus for a lot of the plans that we had at Oakland for the last 2 years. That started, so a little bit about the Show Me. Let me see if I can get this going. There we go. So the Show Me Career Educator experience, honestly, when I was asked by Randy if I wanted to go to it, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Sorry, Randy. But it blew me away because one thing I know about middle schoolers, having spent most of my career with middle schoolers, is they can't think 5 minutes into the future or see 5 feet in front of their face. It's all about the here and now. So part of me was wondering, okay, how can we incorporate this and this experience of going around to all these companies and businesses? How can I bring that back to our building? So one of the things that we created, that we implemented last year, and I would not probably call it workforce development at the middle school level, but I would say it's workforce exposure. Because what we did was partner with various businesses. It says 6 partnerships, but we probably actually ventured out to a few more, because throughout the year, about once every 6 weeks, we would have these businesses come in, and we set up a rotation where they would speak to each grade level. So each grade level was exposed to some kind of business. The feedback was phenomenal. Students were exposed to a lot of different things. I'll show you some of their testimonials here in a second. But I just wanted to expose them to what's out there, because definitely at the middle school level, they don't think about the future. And so just getting that exposure and getting them to think about the possibilities. And the other thing that really kind of changed my mindset, because, you know, I was always of the mindset, you know, you get done with high school, you got to go to college. And going through this experience really showed me that, yes, while that might be the ideal for some, the reality for others is that we need to find a job coming out of high school. And so that is another thing that definitely impacted this experience. So you see some of the partners there that we had that first summer I went through that, and those are some of the companies and organizations that came to Oakland. And like I said, the number of students impacted, every one of our students was exposed to some, and even some of our EL students were exposed to some of these companies. So some of the stories coming out of it, one of the 7th grade students last year, they were really impressed with MU Healthcare. In fact, the student said they showed options that excite a student, like this student in particular, that did not like school. But just the doors and the opportunities that are open for a student that may want to come out of high school, even get a job during high school. But then the thing that a lot of these companies that I think resonated with our students is, I can go to work if I show up and work hard and I establish myself. If I eventually want to go to college, this company will probably pay for it. So that resonated with a lot of students as well. Another student was kind of, he was into construction, and he said, I thought Emery Sapp & Sons was the best presentation last year. I am really impressed or interested in construction, and that seemed like an awesome place to work, and I could make a lot of money. Somebody that has some goals there. So the goal after last year was to expand this and to see how we could make this kind of a deeper dive for this year. And so, not quite, Brandon, hold on. So what we're doing this year is we are trying to, after we went through and saw a different variety of businesses this last summer, is we are going to try to look at career clusters this year. And we're still in the planning phases of this, but instead of just having 6 companies, we want like every one of these, and I shouldn't say career days because it was more like a career hour, because it wasn't all day, it was for 1 hour during the school day. But this year we'd like to expand on that and focus on each one of these as a career cluster where we expose our students to even more opportunities and more, hopefully, employment down the line. A few other things that we are trying to do this year is also we're getting ready to have them take like a career inventory or career interest survey. Because what I'm interested in seeing is what they are thinking about now, but then after going through these career clusters where we bring other companies in, is if that solidifies what they are thinking at the end of the year, or if maybe after experiencing some of these companies that we'll bring in, if that might change their mindset and maybe they see a different future for themselves. So that is just some of the things we're doing at Oakland. So next is Dr. Russell.
Thank you, Dr. Milkey. So my hope tonight is to give you a little bit of a deeper insight into workforce development within the public school system, particularly at the high school and, as Dr. Milkey said, the middle school. I want to center it around work-based learning, of course, workplace readiness, career and technical education, that instructional side, and then of course many of you heard about our career and technical student organizations and the role they play in workforce development. You've heard about work-based learning. Work-based learning is nothing new. We've been doing work-based learning in this district for a long time. And as Dr. Siegel said, that's really the key to that is schools and employers working together to create those structured learning experiences for students. Now, Perkins 5, the federal legislation that funds career and technical education across the country, we get a considerable amount of dollars from the federal government to support our programs. Perkins 5 kind of put a re-emphasis on work-based learning. So it's a major topic across the country, and it's certainly been the topic of ours for the last several years. I'm very, very excited that we brought on a new team member this year. She's not new to CPS, but I'm going to ask Stacy Ellsbury to come up real quick and tell you a little bit about kind of the work-based learning concept within the high school.
Hi, thanks for your time tonight. So when we do work-based learning at the Career Center, what we're focused on, our primary goal is to partner with businesses so that we can help our students further deepen or enhance their technical skills, their employability skills, those 21st century workforce skills. So you have on your screen just sort of a plethora of ways that we can do that. It can range anywhere from job shadows to high quality field trips to internships, apprenticeships, that sort of thing. We know from the research, and this is, as you heard Dr. Yearwood say, this is the hot topic for us. Engagement is top-notch when you have work-based learning because everything that you're doing in the classroom is connected to what's happening on the work site. The other thing that's really important that happens whenever we do work-based learning experiences is that not all of our students come with a family that's well-connected. So you're helping them build those professional connections that's super important for their future. It also, we keep the community and the business leaders in our classroom, in our buildings, and then in our programs so that we can make sure we're following trends. We know what business leaders want when the kids are out, when they're going into the work site. And then finally, the businesses get to build their pool of skilled laborers, the employees that they're going to have later So it's a win-win-win for everyone, the students, the businesses, and the community. I will. So there's several programs at the Career Center, but we were just in a conversation with our IT with our IT program, and we have dozens of students that have been placed in paid internships in the IT program in different companies, and they have gone on to have, many of them have gone on to have those jobs after high school, and then even after they graduated college. So, and that's just one of many that we've had going. You're welcome.
One of the things that Stacy is doing as she's talking to teachers is to try and do an audit to kind of figure out where we're at. We've been doing these in pockets, like she mentions the IT. So part of her work in this new position is to get an idea where we're currently at and where we can grow and move from there. The next piece really is workplace readiness. And this is nothing new for Columbia Career Center. We've been focusing on workplace expectations for a long time. And you have probably been in some of our schools, our high schools and middle schools, and seen our posters that focus on those workplace expectations. I'm really, really excited because this year the district has developed a workplace readiness scale, and every one of our high school teachers is going to be using this workplace readiness scale to give students authentic feedback of where they are with respect to some of these employability skills. And I've given you the example on the screen. This employability skills framework is a national effort that the U.S. Department of Ed and lots of business and industry and educators from across the country developed this. And when we developed the workplace readiness scale, we started with our industry partners. And we surveyed them. What are the skills? We didn't give them any kind of leading script. We just said, what are the things you're looking for in your employees? Got tons of feedback. And with no surprise, I don't think to any of us, it really centered around that wing that you can see there on effective relationships, those interpersonal and personal qualities. So we refined that, got lots of feedback. Some of our Career Center teachers practiced this in their classrooms. Got good feedback, and then we've developed with others across the district this workplace readiness scale that's centered around those effective relationships. So I'm really, really excited about that this year, that the commitment that the coordinators and the principals put into this to say, we need to make sure we communicate to our students the importance of these employability skills that are necessary really for whatever their path is, whether they're going to college or straight into a career. These are skills that cross-section employability skills that are essential for students. I gave you the website there. I really encourage you to go look at that. It's really, really pretty impressive. And so, again, we're trying to focus and give feedback to students about where they fall within that. So we're really excited about getting feedback this year. And of course, at the heart of the work we do, it's really essentially career and technical education. So at the Career Center, we have 80 courses. We are in 3 locations. You can see there, our enrollment in Career Center courses has really, really grown over the since I've been here. This is my 10th year. I think when I first came to Columbia, our total enrollment may have been around 1,800. We're topping out over 3,000. That's a duplicated head count. So students are taking multiple courses. But that's 2,400 high school students that are taking some type of Career Center course. At the heart of our work at the Career Center, really, when you talk about workforce development, are those advisory committees. Our teachers meet with members of the business and industry a couple times a year, and really throughout the year, in informal and formal ways to get feedback of where they're at. It's with their input we're able to adapt the curriculum and make sure that it's representative of the skills that they need to enter the workforce, whether that's right after high school or whether that's after some level of degree. We do a lot of project-based learning, simulated workplace, right? Because we want our students to experience real-world problems. So that's what our students are doing in their classrooms. They're encountering real-world problems and tackling those and learning the skills to be able to do those. We also really kind of think about, Dr. Siegel talked about that transition from high school to college. We really focus on that transition. What can we do to build success from a student from high school to post-secondary ed? We're really intentionally talking about early college. Drew Nash and we've talked a lot over the last couple of years Fun fact, you may not know this, but 3 out of every 4 early college student has either taken or is currently enrolled in a Career Center course. So what that tells us is we got to focus some more attention on what these pathways are, these sequence of courses or programs of study. We want to be really intentional. And again, Drew and I have talked a lot about this. Our work as we move forward is to find out what are those pathways that can we enhance so that we encourage students to take the courses while they're in high school. They take the Career Center courses, they get dual credit. Then maybe by the senior year, they're going to early college in those same technical studies. And then when they graduate high school, they're either getting a post-secondary certificate or a post-secondary degree. We've had, as you guys, many of you know, we've had a lot of students earn an associate's degree. We really feel like they can do that in some of these technical subjects. So we're really looking at how we align those programs of study. Another fun fact, placement. Of our concentrators, which are students that earn at least 2 credits or pass 2 courses or more, 80% of those students on average are going to some form of post-secondary training. That includes about 76 going to a 4-year college, 22% going to 2-year college, and then 2% going to some non-degree bearing institution. So a lot of our students are seeking continued study. 15% of our students are going directly in the workforce. Personally, I think that probably in today's environment, probably should be closer to 25%. We're intentionally working on trying to find ways to make sure teachers help connect, and that's part of Stacy's work, is to help make sure those students see that there are real opportunities for them to earn a very good living right out of high school. So that's really a big part of our work. And then practical arts, we can't forget them. They are career education. Traditionally, our programs have not been career ed approved. We've been working towards that, which might help us from a financial standpoint, but also just ratchet up the expectation of having advisory committees, having CTSOs that are involved in the program. So we're looking at that, but if you can see there, in our we got 24 courses in high school, 11 in middle school, and over 3,600 students at the high school level are taking some type of practical arts course. So when you put those together, you can see that our students are thriving and wanting to take real experiential-based courses. We answer the why, right? And so this is another example of how this district has made a huge commitment to providing our students with exceptional learning experiences. And then another focus area, we really look at recognized post-secondary credentials. So from our last school year, you can see there 282 students earned some type of dual credit in a Career Center course, over 700 across CPS. And those experiences and opportunities continue to grow. We give a lot of industry recognized credential assessments in the spring. They're called lots of different things. But we had 265 students earn some type of IRC in 13 different programs last year. Here's just some examples. 49 CNA students that are going into those nursing homes to work. Cisco, like networking and computer repair, 27 of those. American Welding Society, welding certifications, 19 of those. Lots in culinary through the Association of Culinary Federation. 29 in culinary arts, 16 in baking and pastry. So we're trying to continue every year. And every time I talk to Dr. Ure, we talk about more and more about credentials. We continue to make that focus on how do we create opportunities for students to earn those credentials in their classrooms. We don't talk about this a lot, but a lot of our students are getting OSHA 10. All right, it's a great credential for them to take with them into the workforce. So we're continuing to work towards that. I have to share a quick story. You talk about students experiencing career and tech ed and how it impacts their life and the impact they're making in their work sites. So I got an email today that Gina Greenplate shared with me. It's about a student that's working. She's a senior. Her name's Mary Cadenia. So she's at Jefferson Middle School. And so the teacher, regular teacher that she works with, was going to be out today. And so she communicated to her this weekend and said, hey, if you don't want to come, that's fine. And the student said, no, I'm going to go. She showed up there. Long story short, Mary showed lots of initiative and flexibility. It's pretty stressful. The lessons weren't working right. Mary stepped up because of her training that Mrs. Greenplate and her experience in her internship. has provided her, she was able to save the day. And the comment that was made, she took charge in the classroom and she salvaged a lesson that could have been a failure. So it's things like that where students show that initiative and flexibility. You are giving those types of opportunities to students every day. And so that's just one story of many. And some of you that were here this spring know about our career and technical student organizations. One of the highlights of my years is bringing students in front of you. But CTSOs are just so essential for us. They're not extracurricular, they're co-curricular. So our teachers are integrating things within their classrooms to make those connections to help them refine those skills that are necessary. They participate in competitions, which you get to see some of those. Workshops, they do community service, lots of social activities. But it's those activities that are strengthening learning in their classroom. And you can see you know of some of those names of those student organizations. But you know, you probably remember Dora Grafakos. She was a state champion. She went on to nationals and got first place in commercial baking. Lizzie Brown ended up moving on to nationals, got second place in culinary arts. You probably remember the name Sam Tummins. Sam came up here. He's currently serving as the FFA president. Justin Eddy, a student from Hickman High School, did that a few years ago. Those are the stories you hear about, right? And we're really proud of those, but there's tons of stories. There's so many stories out there about students. Stacy and I were talking about some FBLA students that today that just get nudged a little bit to do something beyond their comfort zone. And to me, that's the greatest thing that our CTSOs do. They are encouraged to compete, and then they may not win a gold, all right, but they're doing something that they would have never saw themselves doing. We hear stories over and over where they would have never saw themselves leading a community service project, but they do it because of the encouragement through the CTSO, or just going to a conference to learn and network with their peers from across the state or across the country. So those are the kinds of amazing experiences that contribute to workforce development and the things that we do to get them prepared to be a part of our community. And so now I'm going to let Stacy come back up, talk to you a little bit about, again, she has moved into a new role as a business and industry engagement coordinator. So she's going to tell you a little bit about what she's doing and why it's important.
That's right. So it's a new position for Career Center this year. And as the business and industry engagement coordinator, my job prior to this position, the weight of setting up work-based learning experiences for students rested solely on the shoulders of teachers, if they had the bandwidth and the connections to do it. So now that rests on my shoulders. I have that responsibility of getting those set up, and we already know the power that it has. So I'm going to be out in the community. I've met with almost all of the teachers at the Career Center to find out what it is that they have done and what it is that they want for their students, but they just don't have the time in their schedule to make it happen, or they don't have the connections and they need help with that. So that's what I'll be spending my time doing, is setting up more of those. When we get students into high quality work-based learning experiences, they get to apply what they've been learning in the classroom, reinforce it, refine it, extend it. It's absolutely what we've been shooting for as a district. So I'm excited to do it. Thank you, guys.
Questions, comments? Workforce development.
There we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, this is phenomenal, right? What you guys just shared with us tonight is amazing. And I hope our community and those that are here, those that are watching here in person, tell folks to come and watch this segment of the board meeting. Because like what y'all all shared is the reason why we put up a bond to ask for just one portion of the Career Center to have a facelift, right? And make it more into this, what it deserves to have and what it is providing to our students in these unique, wonderful opportunities. And I also just want to say, Dr. Siegel, it's been about 4 years, so I might be making it up, but tell me if I'm wrong, Teresa Milady, Elise Muncies, you and I, we had lunch back in like fall of 2019, and you were talking about the work that you were doing on this and the small pieces that were there. And I just want to just highlight to all of y'all that are here, right? This was a conversation of stuff that was already going on, already happening, but slowly growing. And it's grown to what it is now. and it's phenomenal and it's amazing. And it's one element of all of this stuff. And then also what Dr. Russell has shared, where we've been growing and what we've been doing and where they're seeing the connections as it relates to our partnership with MACC when it comes to getting the associate's degree and our career tech stuff. I mean, sorry, I'm not meaning just to praise a bunch and gush, but I mean, like, this is the foundational amazing work that our staff does that isn't always seen, but it's what makes the student experience the highest quality that it can be. So just thank you so much.
Dr. Siegel, have you looked at entrepreneurship for some of the students who have special services? That is what the literature is talking about, helping some of those students figure out how they could be a business owner through that work. So,
Great question. Thank you for asking, because I can now highlight our school-based enterprises that we have at each and every high school. We have a coffee shop at Battle High School. At Rockbridge High School, they have popcorn and fruit, 100% fruit slushies that they sell. And we are working with Hickman and to establish a coffee shop over there. But they also do a dog treat business. So if you need treats for your dogs, I can get you some contacts, and they're going to kill me because they already get more orders than they're able to fill. But they go to the grocery store, they make their list, they keep their inventory in all of our school-based enterprises. And so thank you to the teachers that take that on, and I'm able to help assist with that and making sure that they get their purchases and they get those materials that are needed. But yes, so they make the dog treats, they package them, and they sell them, and they sell out every week. And they travel to different schools within our district to fulfill those orders too. So again, we're practicing those social skills, knocking on the door, delivering our product, and then we get to count our money, and how does that apply towards the resources that we need to replenish for our school-based enterprise. So yes, so thank you for asking that question to give me that opportunity to highlight the school-based enterprises that we do have within our district.
Also, part of the Career Center new building is creating three additional student enterprise centers. They're going to be very flexible at this point, so they can be changed, but there are 3 spaces in there dedicated to that, so that's very exciting as well.
So, I mean, I'll piggyback on what Blake said. I mean, this is all awesome stuff. When I'm reading the MOUs on everything, I'm going, how we need to find more of these. I mean, how creative can we get with them? And then as we're going through and you're talking about all of the different businesses and opportunities, I'm going, what else do we have? And having the shops in the high schools is cool. The shops in the Career Center are going to be cool. Are there opportunities that exist to take some of these students from the middle schools or from the high schools down into the elementary schools and have them work in different spots there?
We didn't have the elementary segment really shared, but they participated in the Show Me Careers the last 2 summers. And so they're doing some of those same things as well. They're taking some of this exposure that their teachers get, they as administrators, and making more robust relationships. Now, remember, for I believe over 40 years, Partners in Education has been in existence in Columbia, and that's not always with a workforce development focus, but there are pieces of that always get connected to that. So it's like I said, it's a quilt. I could just show you about 4 blocks of the quilt. And so if we would go to every building in this district, we could identify some of the things that they're talking about, or some unique things as well.
Are there opportunities then for our students who are in the high schools to go and work in the elementary schools? I guess is what I'm getting at. Whether it's in the libraries or to have that experience working in a school, they're getting the experiences outside places. Get some of that.
So thank you
homegrown.
again for asking a question to give me the opportunity to highlight our high school classrooms that travel to our elementaries. And one thing that we do is help with nutrition services. So we as a district provide food handlers training permit for all of our students who participate in all of our work programs and classes. So once they get their food handlers permit, then they can go into the kitchen and they can do the breakfasts in the sack, and they count everything they need, and so they make the breakfast. Huge help for cafeteria helpers who may already be short-staffed. In addition, we help in the libraries. So Battle High School students will go over to Battle Elementary and help in the library, and then they're able to be with other students. So yes, we are utilizing our high school students into the elementary as well. And in addition to them going to deliver their dog treats there too at the elementary level.
It's not as connected to everything that y'all are doing in CACC, but I did just want to give a shout out to my girl Tiffany Goolsby over at Battle Elementary, because she's a homeschool communicator there, and what they have been doing for like the last 2 or 3 years is called the Battle Buddies program. And so there's high school students over at Battle that will go over to the elementary school and help as well, just in kind of that component, Mr. Lyman, that y'all are talking about around high school students going to our elementary schools.
Right.
It for questions? I just want to leave you with one thought, because you've heard a lot. So if you want to describe workforce development very simply to somebody that you're talking to, our desire, whether it be at the Career Center, it be in Katie's students, we want them, when they're doing a project, even if it's in class or it's out extended into the workforce, we want to give them opportunities, multiple opportunities before they leave CPS to have resume-worthy experiences in which they could talk to a prospective employer and explain and show that they have skills, they have the ability to think critically and collaborate. So that in a nutshell is it. We gave you a whole lot more than that, so thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Siegel, Dr. Milky, Dr. Russell, and Ms. Stacy Ellsbury. Thank you very much. That was awesome. Okay, we have a big consent agenda. Before we move to approve the consent agenda, are there any items people wish to have removed for separate consideration? Ms. Farrell.
I need to have removed 8C, which is the approval of bills, because I need to abstain. 8D, 5J, portable restrooms at Hickman, and 8D, 5K, water and sewer main repair at Hickman.
I request that 8D, 9A, first and last mile transportation, and 8D, 13B be considered for separate consideration. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the school boundary map software renewal agreement. That was 8D9A, first and last mile valet transportation, and 8D13B, school boundary map software renewal agreement. Okay.
I'm not sure what that beeping is, but okay, so do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 8C, 8D9A, 8D5J, 8D5K, and 8D13B? Ms. Snodgrass.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is unanimously adopted. We'll start with 8C. Is there a motion to approve the bills?
I move to approve the bills as presented.
Second.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. So everyone turn on your mics. Go ahead, like everybody turn them on, and we'll go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay. Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Ms. Farrell?
Abstain.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Lyman,
Yes.
Ms. Snodgrass,
Yes.
and Ms. Waters.
Yes. All right, that takes care of 8C. 8D, we'll go in alphabetical and then numerical order, kind of like the Dewey Decimal System. 8D5J, the Hickman High Portable Restroom Service Agreement. Is there a motion to approve that? Mr. Willoughby?
I move to approve item 8D5J.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, go ahead and state your comments, Ms. Varao.
So what I want to give some background on this, and as we have spoken, and Dr. Yearwood even referenced talking about being good stewards of taxpayers' money tonight, is the reason why I'm voting no to this. This is for $13,460 for portable restrooms to be placed at Hickman High School during home football games. It does not solve any current problems that exist. Hickman administration, this is for 12 bathrooms and 1 handicap plastic restroom on the visitor side. John and I both had the pleasure of attending the home football game on Friday night. They are placed in a location that is not safe. It does not solve any problems. The Hickman administration understood this to be coming in conjunction with a temporary outdoor concession stand so that our building could be closed during football on Friday nights. The building cannot be closed at this point because there is no outdoor concession stand, and it causes a traffic hazard, and it solved no problem that hasn't existed for the last 10 years, 20 years of people accessing our indoor spaces. So I will not be voting for this.
I just have a question, which I guess is for administration. It sounds like they were already used at least at one game. What is our financial obligation for the times that they were already used? Because obviously we need to pay vendors that for services that have already been rendered. And what is our obligation, if any, if there's some sort of contract, if we decide that we want to end it and not continue with this service moving forward into the rest of the school year?
Of course, I'm sure we could remove the portable restrooms as anywhere. We're still going to have to obviously pay for the ones divided by 5 home games, so 1/5 of the cost, I would say, we already need. But the issue that was brought to us was about the visitor side, not having access with people with mobility issues and ADA accessibility, not needing to walk back all the way around to the other side of the intent of the portable restrooms, from my understanding, again, I am not a maintenance of facilities or an athletic person, was that people on the visitor side, it was too far for them to walk back around. It wasn't for the people on the home side of the stand. It was for the people on the visitor side to be able to have access to restrooms, because there are handicap accessible restrooms underneath the stadium on the Hickman side of the stadium. So my belief is to solve that issue, there probably still needs to be, maybe they don't all need to stay there, but there needs to be some sort of access to restrooms on the visitors side of the stadium. Maybe the placement of them is not ideal. Maybe we need to work with facilities. Again, I'm not a facilities person, so I can't, or in the business of placing porta potties, so I can't tell you that I'm an expert on that matter, but there was an issue with internal and external stakeholders that was brought to us on the administration that there needs to be some sort of access to bathrooms on that side of the stadium.
Okay, so it sounds like what may need to happen is a new agreement provided to the board to approve a handicap accessible bathroom on the visitor's side. Were any of the porta potties placed on the visitor's side at the past game, or just the handicap one?
They were on the visitor's side as well.
There was one on the visitor side. When I arrived at 2, there wasn't anything at 6:30. There was one handicap stall on the visitor side, which is something that Hickman administration is very happy to have for the very reason that it is a long journey and difficult to get to the door to get inside. The other 6, not 12, that were delivered on trailers sat at the base of the stairs, which is where all the traffic occurs for the football games. There is no capability, from my understanding, to place those on the visitor side because there is no electrical on the visitor side of the stadium.
So, was the one on the visitor side, was it, I know we had the trailers on the home side, but on the visitor side, I just remember seeing the one kind of standalone.
There was just the one standalone.
And so that one was ADA?
That one, I believe, was ADA, and it is on the contract as one handicap accessible stall for $130 a month for, I'm assuming, 2 months for $260.
I don't think the trailers are ADA because they all had stairs to get into them.
They all had stairs. There were no handicap portable units delivered for that. Plus, we have a known electrical issue on that side of the stadium, so plugging those in as well. I mean, I think they're great that they're air conditioned and everything, but they're not handicap accessible. I don't know where else you would put them. That would be accessible to visitors, even if you wanted to keep them for visitors.
Ms. Snodgrass, go ahead.
I know that there is currently a motion in terms of approving the stuff, but I'm just wondering if it might make more sense if we re-motioned or voted that one down and did again to maybe revisit this at the work session, and perhaps the administration facilities and the Hickman administration could get together and figure out a better plan that they might be able to bring to us.
I just want to say that there have been multiple conversations with administration, other stakeholders in this. There are a number of issues that need to be corrected there. We could not do all of them at once. This was the most expedient part of that temporary solution we could do. We wanted to provide as much access as we could. There's a lot of difference in what type porta potties can be brought, used. We were trying to eliminate a problem that had been identified by multiple sources. So any change on that, that's fine, but do know that this was not something that has been made in a rash way. Some of these discussions have been going on for 18 months, and what do we do? There's also some long-term solutions that we know as bond money becomes available that we would like to be able to do some improvements at the Hickman field areas. There are some needs. So this was an effort to give access. We talked in detail, I believe in July or June. We walked with administrators. We talked about what would be helpful, and we thought we were bringing that to you. But if it's not your wish, we will roll that back without a problem. But I do want it known that this is not something that we invented over here in isolation. This is something that we are trying to address in a temporary way some issues for football season. We hope at some point in time in the future we have funds that we can do a very good job of providing permanent facilities at Hickman. But we do not have that budget at this point in time. We're trying to meet some needs, and we will adjust at whatever way you would like us to adjust. But this is not something that just popped up. It wasn't not a quick fix. It's something we've talked a whole lot about, and we've had multiple meetings with multiple stakeholders on that issue and a number of other issues. So,
if I may, thank you, Mr. Gooch. Again, we definitely would like to bring this back at work session with, after doing some additional studies, if that's okay.
So I'll make a motion to refer this back to, oh, okay, sorry. Go ahead, Mr.
Well, there's a motion on the table that's been seconded, so there can be an amendment, but there can't be another motion. That's not what I was going to say first, but I just want to say that. But two, I guess from a governance perspective, it seems like a lot of what's being shared here of concern is placement and usage. I don't see how stalling this agreement fixes that issue. I see that as perpetuating a continuation where if we as a board approve this contract, our administration has heard the concern, and the administration can work with the board and stakeholders to work on that concern that's been brought up tonight, in comparison to stalling this contract another couple weeks.
I was just going to say, I was not at the football game. I did not see the placement. I have not it. I think it's just a question of how we're approving the use of the funds. So I think that would be that's the concern that I heard from folks in terms of the reason to have it come back, so that we make a decision if we were to approve it that addresses the financial obligation that the district puts itself under. But I'm not making motions at this moment.
I do want to say that it was not our decision. It was a decision between the administration at the building and the facilities department about how many porta potties to get and where to place the porta potties as well. Like, I mean, I was not the one that made that decision or decided how many to get, so I can't tell you, but there will be multiple conversations with different parties involved to be able to make that correction. But again, someone made the decision about how many they needed because they thought that was appropriate for the situation. If that's not appropriate, then the communication chain has to go back down through the facilities, through the building, from that is the will of the board, that not be whatever it was that was decided, who are the people that wanted them in that particular place. But
I can also tell you that they were busy all night when I was at Hickman. There was someone in them every time. So they were well used.
Well, we can do one of two things. We can go ahead and vote on the motion that's on the table. And if we vote yes, then we can suggest to administration that they try to revisit this and at least leave the handicap and maybe minimize the other additional bathrooms since the indoor bathrooms are still available. Or we can refer this to committee. We can add that to the motion on the table and bring it back at the work session. Go ahead, Mr. Harper.
Okay, having heard the concerns, I wasn't actually there, but several people sent me pictures, so I think I have an idea of what's there. Having heard the concerns, I do have a concern of voting for something that costs, that much money without having a little bit more discussion. So I'm going to move to amend the motion on the floor to change it so that we can have this discussion at the work session.
I'll second the amendment.
So we have a motion and a second on the amendment to postpone this to the work session. So we'll have a vote on that amendment.
Okay, Mr. Willoughby?
Abstain.
Ms. Farrow?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
No.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Lyman?
Yes.
Ms. Snodgrass?
Yes.
Ms. Waters?
Yes. Okay, we'll postpone this until the work session and be prepared to vote at that time. guess I should not turn myself on. All right, the next one is item 8D5K, which is the Hickman High School sewer, Hickman High Water and Sewer Main Repair Service Agreement. Is there a motion to approve that contract? Go ahead.
I know, sorry, I was struggling on the button. I move to approve item 8D 5K, Hickman High Water Sewer Main Repair Service Agreement.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes. As Randy said, there's been lots of discussion over the last 18 months, and for many of you on the board, you know that I've been intimately involved in Hickman High School trying to get an outdoor concession stand so that we don't have to have the building open during football season or other outdoor games. I think that it is wonderful that the district is trying to take a proactive approach to put sewer and water lines in so that at the point in time when we are able to expend more money for a permanent structure, that is an expense that we do not have to pay. Where my concern comes is the items listed on this, because I do not want to get another change order in a few months to change something, and it is the understanding of Hickman administration and the Hickman PTA, who's been consulted on a lot of this stuff, is that this kitchen sink, this stainless steel hand sink, is going to be placed on the outside of the current building structure. When I'm looking at this $42,000 bid, it talks about routing pipes inside the building, which is maybe perfectly fine. But if the sink is being placed where Hickman administration understands it to be, then my concern is, as I have stated, am I going to get a work order next month to put in walls and secure this to keep vandals from dragging it off the wall, keep people from bathing in it, keep the water from running constantly, keeping the pipes from freezing. And I feel like the board has not been given a full scope of the project in which to approve it. This isn't just running water and sewer lines, and it doesn't meet the requirements that have been conveyed to the district regarding the health department requirements over the last 18 months even. And it sounds to me like there needs to be a lot more conversations and discussions regarding this project.
Is there any, does anyone from administration, can anyone speak to the timing of just the sewer lines? Is that something that is only possible at this current time, at this price, and to any of the other concerns?
Okay, so if we're to put a water and a sewer line there, because of where it lies and with all the pavement, all that, it has to be bored in. So the price that you see for that is very, very reasonable, actually. We're proposing to put in a much larger sewer line than we would necessarily need in a temporary situation with what we could make temporary in the current reality, because we know if we do something permanent there, we're going to have a 6-inch sewer line. So that would go in. So it doesn't, from our perspective, knowing that there's a strong desire to do some major infrastructure improvement in the future, while we're maybe able to add some temporary fixes, because we don't have water out there. So for us to have water out there for even a different type temporary concession stand, we're going to have water, we're going to have sewer. So we feel that this project is worthy to do now, and to do it more than we will probably need until we go with the permanent. But at that point in time, you're going to have that level of sewer and that level of water line. So, and most of that is labor, not necessarily materials, because it is that boring process. So that's kind of our rationale that we're looking at on that. Now, as far as placement of the sink, I think that's something that we can look at, and I think we could probably come up with some ways to secure that in some fashion at this point in time. So I think that is doable, probably within the parameters what you're approving or not approving. I mean, that would be a possibility as well.
My concern with, approving this is less on whether or not the sink is going to survive, the winter. It's more on we're spending $42,000 to start a project that we may or may not have the money to finish or do in 3 years when we pass a bond. Assuming we pass the bond, assuming we put the bond out there. So we're spending money on something that is going to theoretically sit there for the next at least 3 years, and then we're hoping that we keep the the construction of this new facility, we'll call it, in at Hickman. It's just it's $42,000. I mean, I imagine we could find other places to spend that. I'm just not comfortable. If it's a great price, it's awesome, but it's more just we're doing it and then it's going to sit for a project that may or may not ever happen with money that we may or may not ever get. I mean, I'm confident in my city in voting for a bond and helping us out like they did last time, but it's also, and I want to see, Hickman be equitable with the facilities like Battle and Rockbridge have, but it's just, and we're going to be sitting on it for a really long time.
I'll just say that for me, I think this, which is sort of preparation for and more permanent infrastructure, feels like a reasonable use of funds, because I think we're constantly doing, and we see in all our facilities updates and things like that, constantly doing prep for the next stage of projects and doing it when there's a high likelihood. I mean, we never know for sure that any of it's going to happen, right, when we prep a site. But there's a high likelihood. We know it's something that's going to happen. We know it's a reasonable price. And it feels to me like this one is something that there's a little bit more of a long-term plan, more of the immediate. And it's a permanent infrastructure thing, right? Like we know that infrastructure is going to be there. It's going to be on our property as opposed to something that's getting moved off, right? Like the porta potties or something. So I just want to say, so I would just put that out there in terms of how we're thinking about the project and how we want to make good use of our funds, because we know that probably a month from now, not just 3 years from now, the price of something like that is going to be even higher. So
time will have a cost dividend. And I will say this too. So worst case scenario happens. And 3 years down the road, the likelihood maybe of bond funding for this doesn't look good. There's probably some less expensive temporary pieces that could be made to meet requirements of health department and that sort of thing. But we know it's going to be dependent on water and dependent on sewer. So that's why, yes, it is. For right now, it's overkill, because we could go in and bore for a smaller sewer line to get by for a temporary fix. But like I said, the largest part of that is not the material, it's the labor. So then in 3 years, if it works out, 4 years, it works out the way we think, then we're in the spot, we're going back, replacing something temporary. And if the cost of the materials itself was a huge piece of it, I think a larger part of it, I think it would be worthy to maybe tap the brake. But even to do say the sink that was proposed now is not maybe the answer. It's not all the answer, we know that. But if we come up with some stuff that we could afford in the interim to bridge a gap, it's all going to be always dependent on water and sewer.
Sure, and we want to put all that in, having planning for the palatial Taj Mahal sort of concession stand, which we want, right, Ms. Farrow? It's more just going, are hoping that, or getting something better than, well, we're pretty sure this is going to happen, but having some sort of guarantee that we're going to actually do this. Because I know that in the past, the district has had 10-year plans with, major overhauls of buildings, Benton being one where it's like you're on the 10-year plan of getting the major overhaul. And then when it comes down to actually time to doing that major overhaul, we need the money for someplace else. Now that is a multi-million-dollar project versus building a concession stand. Multi-million-dollar concession stand may be nice, but that's my concern, is just making sure that that's there. If we're gonna do it, it's just making sure that we have a plan other than, well, we know we need this when we do it, sort of thing.
I think it also
think
shows
Dr.
that, to the Hickman community, that we are making progress and we are investing. We're not waiting like, well, we'll see in 3 years. We want to make those, albeit small, $40,000 isn't small, but those incremental steps to progress, to make improvements.
And regardless of which way, they are going to need sewer and water. I think, what we spoke about is the location of that sink outside, whether or not that needs to be there, or, is there some sort of change we can do. We're exploring that. The other piece is 3 years from now, we don't know what the cost is going to be. We've seen escalation costs go through the roof, and these things have doubled, in price. I mean, just overnight, look at what we have went through with our elementary school. So I just say, if the building's going to be used down the road, we can at least not do the outside and encourage people coming on board, but we can do some infrastructure.
I just want to confirm, as I understand it, this is the location that will be the location for the concession stand. In the future, this is where it's going to need to be if we're going to have an equivalent concession stand across the multiple high schools for Hickman. This is where it needs to be. Is that correct?
Your likelihood of it being in that general area, yes. Now, is it actually where that existing building stands? Give or take a little bit, but just the footprint in which we have to work with, it's going to be in that general area. Will there be final hookup to that sewer line? Absolutely.
And that was my next question. This sewer line goes to that general area. Therefore, if there is going to be the concession stand that I think everybody acknowledges needs to be there, this is the sewer line and water line that go to that area.
Yeah, and it would be service from the restrooms, the new concession area would be tied into that sewer main. We're actually putting a branch main off the main part from the building, yes.
I think labor costs being what they are, we're getting a screaming deal to get this at $42,000. I think if we waited 3 years, we could put a 1 in front of that easily. So
we don't know.
While I agree that we don't want to spend money or we don't want to plan for projects that are not yet approved by voters, I think it is always safe to invest in infrastructure that is going to support future needs of schools that we know those needs exist now. Go ahead.
I just wanted to be clear about one more thing. The original conversations that happened 18 months ago did include actually talking about adding in the permanent restrooms. So the sewer line that they're putting in would serve those things. And I just wanted to be clear too, that if we do decide, if you do go ahead and do the sink, whether it's on the outside or the inside of the building, it will only solve, it won't solve the problem of having to have the building open for inside concession on Friday night football. The sink will serve a purpose as far as the health department is concerned, but it will not serve the purpose that would ultimately allow us to restrict access to the inside during football Friday night. So I just wanted everyone to have a clear understanding of that.
Okay, well, I think we're ready to vote on this one. So the motion on the table is to approve the agreement to spend the money to extend the water and sewer lines to the existing pavilion area at Hickman. Go ahead and everybody turn on your mics.
Okay, Mr. Willoughby,
Yes.
Ms. Farrow,
No.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Harper,
Yes.
Mr. Lyman,
No.
Ms. Snodgrass,
Yes.
Ms. Waters.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, the motion passes with 5 yeses and 2 nos. All right, and our last consent agenda item, item 8. Oh, sorry, 8D, 9A, and then 18, 13B. Okay, so 8D, 9A. Is there a motion to approve the first and last mile valet service transportation services operation agreement? Go ahead, Mr. Willoughby.
Move to approve 8D 9A first and last mile valet service transportation.
Second.
Looking at this one, it looks like we're offering a certain class of teacher an additional benefit that we are not offering other teachers. I have a hard time voting for something that only goes to a certain class of teachers when we're not paying, when we're not getting extra consideration for that. And so I'm going to be a no on this.
Go ahead, Ms. Farrow.
I think we had asked several questions about this item, and along with Paul, I have concerns about we negotiate a teacher salary and benefits, but on top of this, and I know that it's intended to be, temporarily used, or up until they get, their transportation figured out and stuff like that. But in theory, we have 16 international teachers. It's $7 to $9 a day, which could be up to $3,000 or so, basically extra income for that teacher. I think it's wonderful creative thinking to find a solution to help our international teachers acclimate. But again, I wonder how equitable it is to our current staff. We don't give them extra $3,000 for transportation.
Ms. Snodgrass and then Mr. Willoughby.
Oh, I got like a little tone when that was so exciting. I guess this question is for the administration, just because I want to make sure that I understand correctly. My understanding is the contract that we have with these international teachers that was negotiated, they are not necessarily paid on the same salary step schedule as our other teachers. Is that correct?
No.
Or like on how in terms of like their pay or the money that, because we don't pay benefits the same way, right?
Correct.
So,
Yeah, they
so
are-
there's already a discrepancy in terms of the services because of the contract that is with the company that is helping to bring them over. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, so they are paid on this teacher salary schedule based on their experience and their education, but they do not pay IEG, the International Alliance Group. They cover their benefits, their health, and their dental. So we do not pay that for each international teacher. And just a correction, there are 13 international teachers that we've hired. Can I share a little bit more information? So I wanted to kind of give some back regarding the partnership with IAG. So first of all, we're really excited to host international teachers. We have 9 that are currently, currently in our schools right now, and we have 4 more that we're waiting. They should be arriving. We have 1 arriving today. We have a few arriving next week, and so on. And so we're really excited about this opportunity. They're very excited to be in our classroom, in our buildings, and working for us. And as far as what I've been told by the principals, they're being embraced by the students, the staff, and they're having a great experience. And they've only been talking about how wonderful CPS has been to them. And other international teachers are asking to come to Columbia Public Schools because of the feedback that the other international teachers are kind of sharing. They have like a WhatsApp and they talk amongst themselves, and they have a really great community. So
I just wanted to share that we had some vacancies that we were not able to fill with certified teachers. And through this partnership, we have professionals who are certified in their content area with several years of experience. Some of our international teachers have been teaching 13, 17 years. Some have been principals. They are professionals in their countries. And so this is a great benefit for our community, our students, our staff. One of the goals in human resources and one of the goals that Dr. Yearwood has given us is to increase our diversity in our staff. Currently, we have 1,800 teachers, and only 107 identify as something other than white. And so that is a concern because our population is 42% of our students are, identify as another race than white. And so, we do have to take that into consideration, and this partnership is really great for our community. With that being said, our international teachers are coming here from another country. They cannot navigate Columbia, right? Columbia to us is where we're from. We love Columbia. To us, it's a small town, but it's not, right? It's huge, and there's a lot to navigate, not a lot to know. They don't know how to navigate it, and so for the temporary, we would like to use the service to help them get to and from work while they secure housing around the schools. Many of the international teachers have already done that, will not need this transportation because they're carpooling or they've secured a car or because they've moved. But in the temporary, this is a great resource that they can utilize. Again, I keep saying temporary because it's not a long-term fix. Like any other professional, they need to get their own way to and from, to the grocery store, to wherever they need to go. But currently, human resources and our principals are picking up our international teachers and dropping them off to make sure that we have teachers in the classroom. And so that is not the best use of our time. We will do it. I will get up early and I will drive whoever needs to get to where they need to go because I am invested in this program. I'm invested in our international teachers and I'm invested in our scholars. But this would be a benefit that's really needed at this time. Again, it would not be something that we would use as a permanent fix.
Go ahead.
Mr. Willoughby and then Dr. Yearwood.
I just want to emphasize equal is not equitable. So just because we give a benefit to some, equitable does not mean we give it to everybody else. And secondly, this is very dangerous rhetoric we're having up here about international individuals. Saying that they don't deserve support, saying that they don't deserve something.
Excuse me, I'm very offended by that. That is not what I said.
President Waters, are we just allowing people to talk out of line?
I don't think the discussion needs to be about anything that has been said. If you have a comment about the agreement, you can make a comment about the agreement. I don't want to hear any comments about what other board members have said. Do you have any comments about the agreement? Okay, Dr. Yearwood.
So I want us to put this in a bit of perspective. We're doing this for our scholars, our young children that we have in our schools. We do not have enough teachers to teach them. The alternative is to putting a substitute with no content knowledge whatsoever in front of the classroom. So thank you again, Mrs. Dr. Holtz, for taking this initiative on, because now we have an opportunity to put someone who has content knowledge in front of scholars, approximately, let's say 100 scholars on an average per teacher, right, as they rotate in and out with their different classes. And when you land in a foreign country where you have no family, no support, no anything, you're lost temporarily. I've lived that. You're lost. It's like me taking you to Japan and putting you in the middle of Japan and say, hey, go to work, see you later. This is not a permanent. This is just to get them to a place so when they get in front of our scholars, they're not worried about where they're going, how can they get home, what kind of food are they going to eat. they can teach our scholars. So I implore you, I humbly ask of you to consider this as a temporary, it's not permanent, it's not forever, so that we can get our foreign or international teachers their feet on the ground so they can impact our scholars. Okay.
I think this is a neat program. I think it's cool that we're able to bring folks in, and that's pretty awesome that they're starting to, talk to each other, and more are coming in. I think that that's really awesome. Have we looked at all or talked to, any of the local car dealerships or anything about, finding low cost vehicles for these folks to, rent, to borrow, et cetera? I know at our job, we have an internship for, one of our diversity internships, and we have a house on, near campus, for them to live in. Then we have a vehicle that they all kind of collectively use to get to and from, the office. And then have we looked, at other things, like that? I know where eventually they're trying to all find their own little homes and spots around, the schools. But other than, hopefully a couple months, would you say, worth of, getting these rides to and from, the office, what other things have we looked at doing to help these folks out?
Right. So one of the obstacles that the international teachers are facing is they do not have current Social Security cards. So that takes anywhere between 2, 4, 6 weeks. And so without a Social Security card, you can't do a lot of things in the United States, right? Which is renting a car or purchasing a vehicle and all those things. They also are setting up bank accounts in Missouri. And so all these things kind of are taking time. And so, like I said, the HR department, principals, all of us are kind of all hands on deck to get them to and from where they need to go. Because like Dr. Yearwood said, the main goal is to get them in their classrooms, teaching our scholars, but also, comfortable here and feeling in a good place. Because if they don't feel comfortable and they don't feel confident in their living situation and how they're going to get to and from work, then they're not going to be able to focus on teaching our scholars. So yes, we have looked into that. Again, this is just a temporary so that we can use it as a support as we need it. Like I said, many of them already have gotten their leases, are living close to the schools, don't need it. It's really for a small, very small handful. And as we get the more of them that come in, we can use this as a support to help. And then again, like it's not going to be thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, I mean, I project it as just a few $100s as we get them settled in.
A few $100s per teacher or in totality? Because I did the math real fast, and I was like, can't remember how many days there are in school, but if it's $9 a trip, that's $18 a day times 125 school days. Let's say, it's $2,500 for one person, but that's the entirety of the year.
Right.
But it's like we're not.
It wouldn't be the entirety of the year. Already, like I said, they're very resourceful, carpooling. They're already making relationships and moving into their permanent, housing, and they want it to be close because they want to be able to have that accessibility to walk to and from and to get to the building whenever need be. This service would also just be to and from. It wouldn't be to the grocery store. It wouldn't be extras. It would just to and from work when needed.
And if I may jump in, the service is also being provided for those who cannot find transportation to and from work. I know the Source Summit folks at Pastor Woods received this in a grant from the city to help with those that are unable in the city to get to and from work. And that's a service that they do provide. So this is not something exclusively just for, or it's for anyone who needs transportation to and from work, and they stepped up for us.
I lived in West Africa for 2 years, and I am shocked that this is a discussion. People see Americans as open-hearted, as welcoming, as warm. When I was there, people took me everywhere. I never drove because the driving restrictions are very different about how to get a license and all of that, and that these people have put their lives on hold to come teach in America is a big deal. And when I look at what traveling nurses internationally get, If they're in Wyoming, they get a car. But again, because teaching is not as respected, that is not happening here. And so I would really encourage us to be magnanimous with this group, especially with a pilot, and to see how it goes.
I'll say that I appreciate Dr. Holtz's efforts in filling all of our teaching positions. I know that is extraordinary work now, and it sounds like this is an excellent solution to find not just a building sub or an alt certified teacher or a provisionally certified teacher, but a master in their field, in their content area. And what a rich experience for our scholars to be able to see teachers from around the globe also. And I think it's great that they are encouraging other applicants from their native countries to come here also. I think as a board and as a community, we do welcome that. I didn't hear anything to the contrary in Mr. Harper's statement. What I heard was a desire to make sure we weren't favoring one group at the expense of another, but I did not hear any wish for our international teachers to not be supported. I don't have any problem with this agreement. Go ahead, Mr. Harper.
I am for the visa program that we've entered into. I voted for that before. My concern is that we're adding compensation to teachers. We've got a law that says that we can't do it without consideration. So I'm worried about our legal exposure. I'm worried about other teachers who also may have special circumstances not being able to get to work. We're going to tell them no, and we're going to tell this category of people yes. That is my major concern here. Also, we say it's temporary, but the contract goes to the end of the contract. This contract goes to the end of the teacher contract period. So it's for the whole contract that we are contracting these individuals on. So I just have a concern based on the fact that we're treating one group of teachers different than others. I think the program's great. I think we should all support them, but I'm just having trouble with this particular contract giving a benefit to these teachers that we aren't giving to other teachers.
So the purpose for the contract being a year is because we may have international teachers that will join us. We had an international teacher whose visa appointment wasn't going to be until January, meaning that this person wouldn't be able to come until February. And so it just gives us that flexibility if we were to need it throughout this, the year. My thought is we again, most likely won't need to use this for, a long period of time. As far as my understanding, we have provided transportation for other groups within Columbia Public Schools, like our Como Ed students that needed transportation. So it wouldn't just be exclusive to this group of individuals.
And I do want to say that it was reviewed both by our outside legal counsel and that company's legal counsel, and there was no issue with any kind of legality or anything that we are doing that could possibly not be legal.
It doesn't specifically say in the contract that it's specifically for our international teachers. So theoretically, a teacher whose cars broke down could do that. So wouldn't it just be easy to just throw it out and just be like, hey, teachers, by the way, this is an option if you need a ride to or from school? Or does that bring into play a whole other set of weird things? You know what I mean? Like, it's specifically designed for our international teachers who are coming in who for a week or two may need a thing. But now
I think if it's not, it's the contract covers all those eventualities. I think, we don't need to get into a discussion about how are we going to promote this and who else can we serve with this service, but yes, the contract does not specify what teachers can use it. Thank you for clarifying that it had been reviewed by our lawyers also. Okay.
I'll make it quick. I did just want to clarify as well, like Dr. Yearwood, while I didn't come over here from another country, my entire family did. And so I know how difficult it is to land in America and figure out how you get from New York to Texas with no scheduled transportation between the two. And it is very difficult. My question, like Paul, simply came from the aspect of liability and the aspect of, I think it's wonderful that we found this service for them. Here, teachers, this is something you can use. I just didn't understand why we were paying for it rather than the employee that is using it. That was where I was coming from. But I'm very happy that we're having them here. I think it will give our students a very rich experience, and having that diversity in the classroom and learning a lot about different cultures. I think that's wonderful.
I think Dr. Holtz would say if she could put $18 in a pot and get a quality teacher out of it, that would be money well spent. So, you know, I'm happy to pass a hat next time I'm at a party to contribute to that. Okay, I think we're ready to vote. Everyone turn on your mics, please.
Mr. Willoughby,
Yes.
Ms. Farrow,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Harper,
No.
Mr. Lyman,
Yes.
Ms. Snodgrass,
Yes.
Ms. Waters.
Yes. The motion passes 6-1. And finally, item 8D 13B, the school boundary maps software license renewal agreement. Is there a motion to approve it?
I move to approve 8D 13B, the school boundaries map software license renewal agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion?
My only question on this one is, I understand that a document that was on the agenda was changed. Was that changed more than 24 hours before the meeting?
That was the agreement. The quote. So no, we found out today, we were answering your questions, and so, no.
I would say substantively, none of the agreement terms changed, none of the costs changed. The only thing that changed was on the date of the quote, which did not change the actual term of when the agreement starts, which is October to November of 2023 to 2024.
Okay, so the only thing that changed between the two documents is the date of the document, not any of the substance within the document?
Correct.
Okay, okay.
And that was the question that was asked. It was about the date because it was more than 3 months old.
Okay.
So we inquired about it, and they'd sent the wrong. They had the two sitting in a file. They sent the wrong one.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Then I have no problem voting for this. Thank you.
Okay. We'll go ahead and do a roll call on this one. Mic's on.
Okay, Mr. Willoughby,
Yes.
Ms. Farrow,
Yes.
Ms. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Harper,
Yes.
Mr. Lyman,
Yes.
Ms. Snodgrass,
Yes.
and Ms. Waters.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, congratulations, folks. We made it through the consent agenda. We will move on to new business. We have consideration of construction agreements, engagements, and change orders. Is there a motion to approve them? Go ahead, Ms. Snodgrass.
I move to approve the construction agreements, engagements, and change orders as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Ms. MacArthur.
Okay, so we just have a few items, contracts, and a couple change orders on our listing here in new business for you guys to approve tonight. The Battle Elementary Addition Engineering Design Services, this is one of our 2022 bond projects, along with the Southwest Elementary School and the Career Center addition that was passed in the spring of 22 for those bond funds. This is our design services only with SOA Architecture, who's in partnership, our architect of record with DLR for architect services, and $387,626. The next item is the Benton Elementary Sidewalk Replacement Engineering Services. Again, this is engineering services for special inspection services only, for materials testing for the Benton Sidewalk project, for the concrete observation that needed to happen with our engineer of record, which is Crockett Engineering Consultants, for $1,100. The next item is a change order. It's the HVAC replacement at Beulah, Blue Ridge, and Fairview. Again, this was all bid out as one project for 3 different schools, but this particular change order happens to only be for additional electrical wiring and rooftop units for the rooftop units at Beulah Ralph Elementary School. So Harold Butzer with a change order number 1 on this project for $67,085. The next project, also the same project, HVAC replacement at Beulah, Blue Ridge, and Fairview Elementary. Again, this one is only for special services, special inspection and materials testing with Crockett Engineering Consultants for structural steel field observations only at Blue Ridge, that one location only, for $1,100. The Russell Boulevard Elementary Addition project, this is change order number 15 with GBH Builders on this project. This is for additional drywall expansion of scope at that project at that school for drywall, ceiling, and painting in the existing part of the building for $34,339.95. Also at Russell Boulevard, we have Alarm Communications Center, just the security controls engagement for the security equipment and controls for the Russell project. Alarm Communications for $21,265. And then the final items on your list have to do with the secured vestibule upgrades. The first couple were, again, a bundled project at West Middle School, Mill Creek Elementary, and the Discovery Center, engineering special services, special inspections and material testing engagement with Crockett Engineering Consultant. This was special services for concrete observations at West Middle School only as part of the secure vestibule project at that school for $1,400. Also at West Middle, Mill Creek, and Discovery Center, we have Alarm Communications Center for the security equipment and controls for those projects for $66,915 for equipment in those 3 new vestibule projects. And then the final one, the secured vestibule at for Fairview, Paxton, Keeley, and Alpha Hart Elementary security controls engagement for the equipment and security controls at those 3 locations with Alarm Communications for $109,090.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote unless there's any discussion. All right, looks like we're ready to vote.
Okay.
Mic's on, everybody.
Yeah. Mr. Willoughby?
Yes.
Ms. Farrow?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Lyman?
Yes.
Ms. Snodgrass?
Yes.
And Ms. Waters?
Yes. All right, all the construction and change orders have been approved. We've made it to board member announcements. Somebody up here has a birthday today, Mr. Lyman. We will neither sing nor spank, but we do wish you a happy birthday. Does anyone else have any other announcements? Are you on the radio tomorrow? Yes, Ms. Hayes is on the radio tomorrow, and Ms. Snodgrass has an announcement. Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to note for those that celebrate this coming Friday is the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year. And so just want to wish a happy and sweet New Year to everyone, and particularly for those who celebrate, that they have a meaningful celebration.
On Wednesday at noon at Rockbridge High School is the next executive meet the team sort of day, night, lunch, and it's in the Performing Arts Center in the PAC. Yeah.
Thank you for that reminder. All right, our work session will be on Friday, September 22nd, instead of the normal Thursday, the 21st, due to some travel on the part of some members in attendance. So that's our next meeting. And do I have a motion to adjourn? April.
I move that we adjourn this lovely meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hands, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And we're adjourned at 9:38. Thank you, everybody.